Our neighbors to the north in New Hampshire just did away with mandatory annual car safety and emissions inspections, joining 36 other states that don't require inspection stickers. Annually, we do in Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine. We'll ask you, did you realize that most other states didn't do this? And why do we still shell out $35 a year here? Should we? Or are you worried about Granite State rust buckets driving on our roads? Weigh in next.
I'm Marjorie Eek, and then it's national security expert CNN's Juliette Kayyem on FEMA failures around the Texas flooding. We're learning now that thousands of calls went unanswered during the flood and before it. Plus, GOP members of Congress with whiplash for helping Ukraine, then against helping Ukraine. Now they're apparently for helping Ukraine again. We'll try to make sense of it all next on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Kristen Wright. House Speaker Mike Johnson is the latest Republican to call for the Trump administration to release more information about Jeffrey Epstein. Johnson singled out Attorney General Pam Bondi, who told Fox News in February that Epstein's alleged client list was on her desk for review. Now the administration says there is no client list. NPR's Shannon Bond says Johnson says everything should be put out there.
Mike Johnson said Bondi needs to, quote, come forward and explain that to everybody. Now, Bondi has brushed off questions about her handling of this material, and so far, Trump is defending her. Yesterday, the president said she's been handling this all quite well, but he also said, quote, whatever she thinks is credible, she should release, which sounds a lot like what many of his supporters have been calling for.
Epstein was a convicted sex offender and financier known in some celebrity and political circles. He died by suicide in jail. This week, some federal workers at the Department of Health and Human Services were notified they'd been fired. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports they're part of the reduction in force that began in April, but had been paused by the courts.
The email from HHS Human Resources explained that the Supreme Court had cleared the way for HHS to move forward with its reduction in force and said recipients were officially separated at close of business that day. Anthony Lee works at the Food and Drug Administration and is president of Chapter 282 of the National Treasury Employees Union, which represents thousands of FDA employees.
Getting inundated with a lot of questions about what does this mean? Can the agency do this?
He says employees weren't told anything about their severance or benefits like health insurance.
So they are really left in the dark.
HHS confirmed to NPR that employees were terminated this week, but declined to provide the number. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
Many are still missing today in central Texas. The flood disaster there is prompting cities to take a closer look at readiness plans. Nathan Bernier from member station KUT reports one of the most common flood dangers in Texas may take generations to fix.
Texas already led the nation in flood deaths even before the recent storms claimed more than 130 lives. One of the most deadly flood risks is when fast-moving water flows over the road.
So when it comes fast.
We've been up to our knees or our thighs on this road. It's just pouring.
Brent and Katie Johnson live next to a low water crossing in northwest Austin. The city has nearly 70 of them. At the current pace, Austin is fixing about one low water crossing every 3 years. That means it could take 200 years to fix them all. And across central Texas, there are hundreds more. I'm Nathan Bernier in Austin, Texas.
This is NPR News in Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Late last night, the Worcester City Council approved a request to expand access to affordable groceries in the city. Comes as Price Chopper and Stop and Shop have each closed a store in Worcester over the past year. Councilor Jenny Pasillo floated the idea of a city-owned grocery store, but watered that down a bit after the request was pushed back.
We're the second largest city in New England. It would be really great if we could set an example and just find a way to think outside the box and get people access to healthy food.
The council passed an adjusted measure to consider creative ways to bring more food accessibility. City Manager Eric Batista told councilors one option is for the city to lease property at a discount to nonprofits who could then open a new grocery store. Well, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard are about to get busy with political fundraisers. For instance, we've known for a while now that Vice President J.D. Vance will be on Nantucket Island next Tuesday, the 22nd, for a Republican National Committee fundraiser. And now we're finding out that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is headed to Nantucket this weekend for a Saturday night fundraiser. According to the invite, suggested donations range from $1,000 up to $10,000. And then on Sunday, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey will be on the Vineyard for a fundraiser at the home of developer Richard Friedman. According to that invite, suggested contributions range from $250 for attendees up to $5,000 for hosts. In sports, New England Revolution in New York for a game against the Red Bulls tonight. It's 88 degrees. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation, partnering with organizations and people since 1985, working for a better and more just future for all. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
He's Jim Browdy, and I'm Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Thank you. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Later today, Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. He's going to zoom in to talk about his new album of a lot of protest songs, Jim. Plus, David Folkenflik with the latest on the government defunding, possibly, we hope not.
And by the way, that debate has actually begun at 10 o'clock this morning, so it's possible there could be bad news by the end of the day. By the way, happy National Hot Dog Day to you, Marjorie.
Jim.
On a bright note.
We're very excited for you.
See what they're doing right across the street at Lennox Hotel?
They got hot dogs across the street at Lennox Hotel, and you know what we're going to get in a little while?
Hot dogs.
We're going to get a hot dog with all the fixins.
So in any case, annual car inspections are out, at least in New Hampshire. A new law no longer requires annual safety inspections. Just another way for Governor Ayotte to claim New Hampshire is not getting masked up, as she says. Or maybe on this issue, they're on to something. I didn't know this. Just 13 states require periodic safety inspections, some kind of sticker in payment for that. Should Massachusetts make like the live free or die state and get rid of them too? The lines are open at 877-301-8970. People who own cars hate getting them inspected every year. Actually, I actually like getting mine inspected.
Yeah, that's because you have an electric vehicle.
I do have an electric vehicle. That is true. People who fix cars saying get rid of inspections will make the roads less safe. I agree with that. $35 a year here in Massachusetts. I think Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts all require them annually. So is it worth the $35, or is New Hampshire getting it right? What do you think? 877-301-8970. Do you still have a guy you take your rusted out, busted up jalopy to who winks and lets it pass, or are you worried now that all those granite staters in their uninspected cars will be driving on our roads uninspected? The number is 877-301-8970. By the way, I am a strong pro-inspection kind of person.
You are?
I am, yeah.
Well, I could do without them, except that I like my mechanic. He's right across the street from GBH.
He's a good guy. That's Paul, is that his name? Paul's a good guy.
Market Street Golf, yeah. He's a good guy, so, he's an inspection guy, so I like that he can make some extra money on this.
So what are you saying? You're for inspections because you like the guy who does the inspections?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. 877-301-8970. Can I give you one word?
No. Okay.
I'm going to give you one word about why inspections are a good idea in New Hampshire is wrong. You want the one word is? Brakes.
Oh, brakes.
Don't you want people to have their brakes inspected in the car so they don't rear-end you or something like that? How about windshield wipers, Marjorie? Because when they're not working, you know what happens? The driver can't see.
Yeah, but usually...
How about headlights, Marjorie?
Jim, you notice when your windshield wipers aren't working. And
but a lot of people won't get them fixed because they don't give a damn. They put their head out the window so they don't have to worry about...
They put their head out the window.
Some people do put their head out the window. They do.
In the pouring rain and the snow, they're sticking their head out the window.
Remember when I used to drive around my Volvo station wagon because it had that poisonous chemical coming out of the dash?
You were poisoned.
I used to have to drive with my head out the window of the car.
You were poisoned. You
I
wound
almost
up in the
died.
emergency
I
room.
was. And they said at Mount Auburn Emergency Room, if I drove that car one more day, you'd be hosting with someone else. 877-301-8970. By the way, in a moment of seriousness, this to me is such a basic safety issue. And if New Hampshire doesn't want to have it every year, let it be every couple of years.
Hold on. They're saying it's not a safety issue.
I don't care what they're saying.
You know why? Because if your brakes don't work, Jim, you normally think that it's a good idea to go in.
When you were a
and get them
kid,
fixed.
Marjorie, and your brakes were weak on your car, did you take them in and go spend $200 to get new ones, or did you just say they're good enough?
Well, the thing is, you went in and you failed the inspection. And they put a big red R on your windshield. And then that was good like for a month or so you could wait. And then, if you're a little down, you're lucky, you'd take the thing to get fixed at some inexpensive place, kind of under the bridge in an undisclosed location. You know what I mean?
Can I tell you how phony this New Hampshire thing is? Did you read the quote in one of the stories? The majority leader of the House of Representatives in New Hampshire was the chief sponsor of this.
Yeah.
Here's what he says. He talks about when he goes back to his district, quote, "There's one thing they ask me about. When are you going to repeal those auto inspections?" Do you think the people in New Hampshire, that's the one thing they talk to their state reps about?
I think if you have an older car, you are kind of worried every single solitary year that you're going to flunk the inspection. I mean, many people have flunked the inspection. I've flunked the inspection a bunch of times when I had older cars. Now that I have a newer car, my car's only 6 years old, I'm not worried about flunking the inspection.
Whatever it's called.
Whatever it is. But I think if
What's it called?
Inspection.
Thank you.
Thank you. I goofed that up.
877-301-8970. Let me restate our positions. I am for annual inspections, maybe biannual. Marjorie has no idea what her position is. So let's find out what yours is.
I like the mechanic across the street from the GBH, Paul at Market Street Golf. And people are making fun of me because I do a big dent in the front of my car that I haven't gotten fixed.
By the way, the reason she has a dent, just to show why people like Marjorie needed inspections, there was people at the Lennox are as nice as they could possibly be. A plant falls off the roof of the Lennox a few years ago.
It wasn't a plant, it was the whole pot.
Whatever it was, the pot. How many years ago was that?
About 5 years ago.
Okay, about 5 years ago, a plant falls off the roof of the Lennox Hotel onto Marjorie's hood.
That's right.
It dents the car, as you would expect from the wonderful people at the Lennox. Say, get it repaired, we'll pay the whole thing. Of course they will. That was, what'd you say, 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
When did you have the repair done?
Well, I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Exactly. And that is when people will get around to repairs of things that matter if they're not required to by an inspection.
I don't think that's true. I think the basic safety things, and they also say that we don't have these horrible emissions like we used to. Of course, we'll wait till Trump, he's probably going to be pro-emission pretty soon, so he's probably going to change that too, because he's snuck in some more things in this big, beautiful bill.
I know, you told me that. I didn't know about that.
Makes it even more difficult for wind farms and sun farms and clean energy, so he'll probably be pro. He wants everything to be polluted more. I think, that's a sensible way to go. But in any case, because cars are better now, you don't have the terrible emission problems that used to cause all the smog. So that's what they were really good at. They were really good at regulating the emissions coming out of the back of cars. They're saying in these stories, Jim, it doesn't really make that much difference in terms of safety, because despite what you say, most people whose windshield wipers don't work
they don't.
are not sticking their heads out the window on the Mass Pike. Okay, let's go to Adam in Boston. Hi, Adam.
Hello, Adam. Hello.
I'll go quickly because I'm sure other people want to speak, but I'm definitely pro-inspection, and I'm an auto enthusiast, and here's the reasons why.
Why?
Many people's headlights, either one doesn't work or the headlights aren't aimed correctly, so that's really important.
Oh.
Yeah.
When windshields get a lot of pits in them, when it rains out or at night, it causes glare and blindness. And then front ends. You could have worn out tie rods, you could have worn out ball joints. And a safety inspection, I think, should be 50 statewide, maybe even, as you said, biannually.
Yeah.
However, this is the Rust Belt, and they use way too much salt on these roads.
Yeah.
And it rots out almost brand new cars.
Exactly.
The discrimination against cars that have rust on them, that's not fair.
Well, let me tell you, that was a very thoughtful call, Adam, to start us off. We appreciate that call. Thank you very much.
The bald tires thing. I mean, that is something that a lot of people may not notice, is that the tires are bald in their car.
Tell me you did not drive with bald tires when you were a kid, hoping that nothing happened because you couldn't afford new tires. Didn't that happen to you?
Well,
Adam, thanks for the call.
I think you waited longer to get the
which is unsafe,
get
Marjorie.
the tires fixed. But you know something now?
No.
The cars have more. They're not. Plastic is very bad for the environment, but they're good for not rusting your car, so the rust is less of a problem on newer cars now. I do
It
believe.
is?
Yeah, I think so.
Adam, that was an excellent call. Thank you.
877-301-8970. What do you think? Should Massachusetts stop having inspections every year? Maybe we should have them every 2 years. Maybe that would be kind of a nice compromise. Leon from
How about this? This person says, Doug from Wayland says, when I lived in Texas, new cars were good for 5 years. That makes sense. How about having I don't know what the words are. When the car is new, you have longer till your first inspection. And as the car gets older, the inspection has to be more frequent. What do you think of that?
That's not a terrible idea. I wouldn't want to wait 5 years. I'd say 3 years.
Okay, fine.
Because I'm concerned
Okay, fine.
about Paul at Market Street Golf.
Yeah, I know, because you don't want to not see him.
Leon from Whitensville.
Very good guy.
Thank you for calling.
Hello, Leon.
Hi, Leon.
Oh, hi. My son recently, first time, long time.
Yeah.
My son recently moved to Milford, New Hampshire.
So sorry.
And when he registered his vehicle, you do not need insurance either.
What? That can't be true.
Where is that? Where is that?
Can you look that up? That can't be true.
New Hampshire.
I can't. No.
You don't need insurance?
So now we've got bald tires from no inspections and no insurance.
That's great.
I don't know.
Jamie's checking this out.
Jamie's checking that out, Leon. Because suppose you, get in a bad accident, then what?
Well, I mean, I could say the same thing about the inspection. Leon, that is a painful addition to this discussion. We're going to check it out. As Leon just said, bald tires, no inspection, no insurance. We're going to check to see if that's true.
You know,
Leon,
they also check,
thanks for your call.
They also check your horn and your airbags and your lights.
Yeah.
That's very.
Well, that's not important, is it?
But
Do you ever have a headlight out when you're... I'm sorry to keep referencing the same thing, but I know when you were a kid, like when I was a kid, and you had no money, and you had your first car, which was a used car, I assume, and things started going wrong. Didn't you drive with the check engine light forever, just crossing your fingers? And by the way, it's one thing if it just hurts you. The potential is something could go wrong to hurt somebody else. Yeah, why do you not care about this?
I do. I just think that maybe we don't need to do it every year.
This is not possible. New Hampshire doesn't mandate car insurance, Jamie says. It does require proof of financial responsibility. This means someone's washing their dishes. Could we put that person on hold, please? This means that to opt out of purchasing auto coverage, you need to show that you could pay whatever costs might be incurred by another driver should be found at fault.
Yeah, that's almost nobody.
Well, let me explain the difference here. If it turns out you have insurance, you just go to the insurance company, you get paid. Under New Hampshire law, if you get damaged by somebody else, you have to file a damn lawsuit. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and suppose you, I don't know if the person addressed that in the text, but if you hit someone and you're at fault, you could lose your house and everything else.
Yeah.
Right? Without some kind of...
So you're changing your position on this, or
no,
you still don't know what your position
that's
is?
insurance in New Hampshire, Jim. I think people should have insurance.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fine.
Let's go to Judy in Newport, Rhode Island. Hi,
you were
Judy.
the one washing your dishes, Judy, or is that somebody else?
No, I am running.
Oh, wow.
On Ocean Drive.
That's pretty great.
Oh, God, lucky you.
I'm a first-time caller, and I had to pull over for this, but a huge fan.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Almost 14 years ago, my twin sister was hit by a car on Charles Street, almost killed, years of surgery from a duped inspection. So I feel very strongly that everyone should be inspected and the inspectors should be inspected.
What do you mean a duped inspection, Judy? What happened?
They falsified it.
Oh.
By the way, I have to say, Judy, when I was younger, it hasn't happened since I moved to Massachusetts. I did have experiences where you go to take your car in and be inspected, it's failing, and they basically say to you, give me $20 and I'll pass the thing.
Judy, what was it that was it faulty?
My twin, it was faulty brakes.
Faulty brakes.
It rolled down the hill on Charles Street.
Oh,
my sister was crossing in a crosswalk, my twin, and laid in a hospital for a month at Mass General. They put her back together.
Wow.
Burns all over her body, broken bones, brain injury. So I'm running up a hill and it's hot, but I feel very passionate about this.
We are really glad.
We're
really glad you called. We're really sorry about your sister, but we are really glad you called.
She's great now, and we're giving back. We have a program at Spalding Hospital that's free yoga for patients and caregivers, and it's open free under the adaptive sports if anyone ever needs it. It is free from our fund.
Judy, that is
So
great. Good for all of you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you obviously don't want inspectors to be give them $20 and they let you pass if you get bad breaks.
But that's a separate problem, because obviously, here's the text that I think is really meaningful. Mm-hmm. It's from an anonymous texter. Yeah. When is GBH going to start their version of Car Talk? I would love to hear repair advice from Marjorie. The dent, don't fix it. The check engine light, maybe next year. Other problems, go see Paul at the Gulf and Brighton. Bus lanes, just driving them. I mean, that sort of sums up Marjorie's position on these issues.
Well, I tell you, everybody that thinks it's ridiculous about the bus lane should go down Huntington Avenue in the afternoon and see there's no buses and there's like 50 cars lined up all behind the lights.
You know, speaking of buses, which has nothing to do with this conversation.
Can I talk about the T?
Can I raise, just quickly.
Blue
I
line?
assume people read the story. The Blue Line breaks down in the tunnel. 450 people have to march through the tunnel. The only shocking part of the story, did you not think when you're reading the story in the Globe, the end's going to be, and who greets the 450 people
Phil
when they
Lang.
emerge from the tunnel?
I know.
Phil Lang? He must be on vacation or something.
I don't know what happened because he wasn't quoted in the story.
He's the
either.
GM of the T, of course.
He's the most popular politician in Massachusetts.
He is. Well, he's not a
but the
politician.
driver, I guess he's not really a politician, you're right. But the driver apparently saw this loose wire hanging down, so the driver saw the loose wire hanging down. I mean, it could have been a bad situation.
You know what's another incredible thing?
They had to wait like an hour and a half.
Speaking of the subway, remember when was it the Orange Line caught on fire and the woman jumped out of the Orange Line into the Mystic?
Yeah.
And do you believe we have never identified who the woman is?
I know. She kept a low profile.
Is that one of the best stories?
She swam.
She swam.
She swam to shore.
Well, we hope she swam to shore.
Yeah, we hope she swam to shore. I don't know how I feel about swimming in the Mystic River. I don't know, Jim.
Well, I think if the Orange Line is on fire, swimming in the Mystic River is probably preferable, would you not say? Let's go back to auto inspections. You no longer need to get them in the live free or die state. Sue in Chicopee, hello.
Hello, how are you?
We're quite well, thank you.
I am a person from high school that's been 55 years old.
Yeah.
And I've done automotive all my life.
Oh, great.
And I've done state inspections for certain, automotive places. And I absolutely 100% back up inspections in every state across due to that reason. I mean, accidents happen all the time to even good cars and bad cars, but they should all be inspected because I've inspected quite a few doozies in my lifetime, and they should never have been on the road, and they get snuck on the road for bad inspectors, which need to be watched as well. And I'm glad that there are cameras in the inspection stations now in Massachusetts.
I didn't even know that. Is that true? That is great.
What are they looking for?
Absolutely.
Fraud, just like that caller talked about.
They are watching the inspector, doing their job, making sure it's being done properly, making sure that car does not go back on the road if it fails.
Hey, what kind of stuff do you see, Sue, in your career that should have been stopped at an inspection and wasn't? What kind of things?
I've seen bad seatbelts. I've seen faulty brakes.
Yeah.
I've seen bad e-brake holders, windshield wipers that were falling off the car, and mirrors that don't fall off the car. I mean, it's really sad how people can drive a car like that.
So we are really glad you called. Thank you very much. We have a couple of texts. Tony in Orlando said, Click and Clack Brothers always said, just put black tape over the check engine light. I've done that, actually, even without their advice. Sarah from West Roxbury.
Hold on for a second.
What?
Mr. Let's have everybody in the safe car. To follow your advice, you should have immediately driven in to the mechanic and find out why you
when I
had
was a
check
kid,
engine
I
light.
was the reason why you need inspections.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right, okay.
Sarah from West Roxbury. When I was a college, I did this too. I'm sure you did too. When I was a college student and both headlights were out on my used car, I drove for months with my brights on instead of replacing them. Needless to say, I lived in a state that didn't require inspections. Not my proudest moment. You never did that, by the way?
Not no lights.
You know how dangerous? No, not no lights. She put her brights on because her regular headlights were down.
I never had no lights out. I did have a hole in the floor.
You did?
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Alan from New Hampshire says, please, every time we go over puddles, it's a bad situation. Alan from New Hampshire says, please tell Jim what happens the other 364 days a year when you're not going to the inspection station. Jim's answer to everything is more government. You're aware that's in part why Trump won.
Well, you want me to respond, Adam? Mm-hmm. We should have weekly inspections. That would solve. By the way, in all seriousness, I've thought about the problem that he mentions.
You have?
But obviously, you got to pick a time frame. I mean, a year seems reasonable to me. And by the way, if you time it right, I understand $35 is not nothing, but if you don't go on a weekend or a busy time, you're in and out like in 5 minutes. It's not like a great burden kind of thing at all.
Okay.
Oh, somebody from New Hampshire. Let's see what their position is.
They said live free and die. That's
no,
what
I'm
they
not
said.
talking about them. There's a caller, Jen in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Jen. Which side are you on?
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Oh, I am definitely on the inspection side.
Good.
So, I'm in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
To answer your question, no, we do not need insurance.
Wow.
That is
It's
just
insane.
wild. I would be so...
I was in an accident years ago, and the other person did not have insurance. So my insurance had to pick up everything, and we have to personally sue if your insurance doesn't cover the bill. Yeah.
Okay, Jen, hold on for a second.
there's
Hold on for a second.
Yeah.
I would think people would be outraged about that in New Hampshire. Apparently they're not.
Yeah, sure.
That's a good one, Jen.
Okay.
We have definitely gone to the live free and die stage.
Okay, okay.
But my other thing is that the state gets a portion of this inspection fee to help pay for the roads and whatnot. So if they're not going to get that cut, it's just going to add on to our registration fee.
Huh.
By the way, this
So
insurance...
our registration, I just registered my car, and it was almost $500.
When you think about... When you think about the cost of what you would be on the hook for if you were in an accident and the other person didn't have insurance, or if you did something, the liability problem, I mean, people's insurance, what is it, about $1,500, $2,000
Insurance
a year?
expense. You don't think that... Jen, that was an excellent call. Thank you. You don't think that people, particularly people who are strapped financially, wouldn't take a chance, bet against themselves? People buy auto insurance for the most part because they're required to buy auto insurance here. And if it wasn't required, it'd be like New Hampshire.
Yeah, but you think about if you did something and caused an accident.
I know.
You'd really be screwed.
You could be, forever.
Forever.
Potentially. Forever.
Yeah,
potentially,
like
it's
losing
true.
your home kind
Here's
of
another thing I did. Anonymous texter. When I was in college, I was missing a wiper blade. So I put a sock on it so that it wouldn't scratch and make that terrible sound. That's what everybody did. You're just in denial. Totally.
Okay. You said people stuck their head out the window.
No, I said
which
I
is
stuck my
ridiculous.
head out the
You're going
window.
70 miles an hour with your head out the window.
Exactly.
I don't think so.
Let me tell you, it
Okay.
hurts if someone's driving the other way. Really hurts.
You are listening to BPR and GBH and NAPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're talking about this idea because of New Hampshire getting rid of their inspections up there. Should Massachusetts be doing the same thing? How do you feel about car inspections, auto inspections? 877-301-8970. Quick break, right back.
In the U.S., affirmative action policies have come under intense scrutiny. In Brazil, they're celebrated as a huge success.
It totally transformed the face of public universities in Brazil and opened it up to people who were not there before.
How affirmative action is reshaping Brazilian universities and why that's been so popular. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, offering wellness care and support services to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. ConcordPark.org/care. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Knowing Nature, Stories of the Boreal Forest. Captivating photos and interactive displays take visitors inside a vast wilderness. Opens July 26th. PEM.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH APM. Juliette Kayyem is so excited. She decided to take to the stage 10 minutes before her segment starts. That's the kind of enthusiasm I really think is missing from this show.
She's passionate because she too likes her mechanic, and she wants to make sure her mechanic gets that $35 a year. Oh my God!
Now let me just say,
my hot dog just
the
arrived.
reason Marjorie said no, our friend Peter, who is one of the leaders at the front of the Lenox Hotel, just walked over with a hot dog because it is National Hot Dog Day.
Yes,
and it is beautiful. Woo! And we want to thank Peter. He is one of the most honorable people I've ever known. So if you're just tuning in, we're going to talk about hot dogs at the end of the show at 1:30, so stick around. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about, sadly, not hot dogs, but car inspections. New Hampshire got rid of them legislatively recently, and we just learned, thanks to a caller, they also don't require you have insurance, which is insane. We want to know which side you're on in this inspection thing. Obviously, Massachusetts requires annual inspection. Who's right? 877-301-8970 is the number.
Here's Jeremiah from Arlington. Sometimes when driving down Mass Ave behind an old jalopy belching a noxious effluvium of putrid black smoke, my only consolation is that car will never pass inspection, so I know it won't be on the road much longer.
Effluvium?
Effluvium. That was
means
Jeremiah's
like spitting
word.
It out kind of thing?
I guess that's what that means.
Let's go to Jay and JP. Welcome to the show, Jay. How are you?
Hey, Jim and Marjorie. Love you guys. Second time I've gotten through.
Thrilled.
I just literally came from my inspection 15 minutes ago.
Oh.
And I couldn't believe when I turned on the radio and I heard what you were talking about.
Great.
So I am all for inspections. I have been rear-ended so many times living in Boston. You can't even imagine. So I want to make sure people's brakes are working. I want to make sure my brake lights are working. I want everything working according to the inspection, because people don't need to be getting rear-ended and having all kinds of accidents because they weren't inspected.
Can I tell you?
And the insurance as well.
You are a fine person, Jay. Let's just leave it at that. That was a beautiful phone call with a beautiful spirit. Thank you for sharing that. You know what they also don't have? A texter, anonymous texter reminded me. They don't have inspections in New Hampshire. They don't have insurance requirement. You know what they don't have also? I learned this from you.
They don't. Well, they do have some sidewalks.
Not many.
But a lot of places are missing sidewalks.
No sidewalks.
Yeah, no sidewalks. You just walk in the road. You know, an anonymous texter does make a good point, too, that next time we all go to the grocery store, we should look at the tires on the cars in the parking lot and wonder how many of them are going to be not going to be able to stop fast on a slick road. And you do see a lot of people driving around with bald tires.
One of the beauties of you is you're fairly impressionable.
I'm very impressionable.
So you were either undecided or for biennial inspections. After having heard from these callers and reading the text, you were pro-inspection.
Wait a minute. I was pro-inspection from the beginning.
No, you were not.
Yes, I was.
You weren't sure? Oh, because you liked the inspector.
Marketplace, Gulf, whatever it is, there across the street from GBH. You know what? You want a mechanic that's not going to tell you all this stuff is wrong with your car when it's not. You know, how if you go to a dealership, which is a big mistake with a car, and suddenly they tell you got $2,000 worth of work to do in your car. You go to a good mechanic, and they don't find all those things that are wrong.
Can I ask you one question before we get back to the calls?
Yeah.
It's 4 minutes till we take a break.
Yeah.
Do you think I can go 4 minutes without taking a bite of that hot dog?
It's very difficult. We're looking at that hot dog right in front of us, but I think you don't want to chew the hot dog on the air, Jim. You want to wait a couple more minutes. No.
Sad.
Let's go to Gene in Bedford. Hi, Gene.
Good morning.
Hi.
First time, long time.
Thank you.
So I have 2 points. One is that I am pro-inspection, but only for cars that are 10 years or older.
Oh,
I feel it's ridiculous to drive, a brand new car that's a year old into an inspection station and then have to, prove that there's a problem with it when the likelihood that there's a problem is extremely low.
Well, Gene, how many miles a year do you drive?
About 12.
Okay, so that means in roughly 3 years, your tires are going to start getting bald. And if you're a young kid who has a car and doesn't have much money,
the young kid probably isn't buying a new car.
Well, their parent buys them a new car.
Okay.
Don't you think that we should have that kid having their car inspected?
I agree, but I think that you have to weigh the inconvenience of getting inspected versus the likelihood that you're driving something dangerous. And I think, at the 10-year point, that's sort of the tipping point for me.
I think it's a tipping point. I hope not.
Gene, thank you for the call.
I need to go 12 years.
What do you mean 12 years?
That's how long I generally have my cars.
How do you feel about Jean's position there? Every 10 years?
I think 10 years is too long.
Well, how long would be right, Marjorie?
Well, I told you. You keep asking me, Jim. I
see if you change
I might
your
go to every
position.
other year because people seem to not to like it. I might go to every other year.
See what Jeff in Andover says? I have extended family in Maryland.
A lot of people are saying this. Same thing. Maryland, Colorado, other places where they don't have inspections. Go ahead.
A state that also does not require inspections. The highways are littered with broken down cars. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's what people are saying from other states that
they
don't
are?
have. But that's rather odd, just to leave your car on the side of the road. Would you start walking for the rest of your...
I think Jean's on to something. The thing I said before, the frequency of inspection should be tied to the age of your vehicle. What do you think of that? Vehicle.
Yeah, 10 years is too long.
No, 10 is too long. Yeah. But the concept that Jean was advancing...
You want to set a year or give a span, Jim, that you think is
No, I told
acceptable?
you. I think they should be monthly. I do. I agree with that texter because you never know what's going to go around.
Jim is a big government guy.
No, it's sort of like Joe Biden was great shape, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. Cars also tend to decline after a little bit of time.
Okay.
And that kind of thing.
Dan from New Hampshire.
You
we only
have
have about 30 seconds, Dan. I'm sorry. Can you make it quick?
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We have 4 towns in this community with 1 town, so there's no enforcement. Backcountry roads are dangerous with hills and ice in the winter. Uninsured motorists, you should make sure you have uninsured motorist coverage on your insurance if you're driving in New Hampshire. And to go into a body shop or a car shop, it's upwards to $100+ an hour. And the last thing, in 1975, we brought the drinking age down to 18, and that backfired on us. And I think this is going to backfire on us also.
Excellent New Hampshire point of view, I should say.
Thank you from
Dan,
the New Hampshire
poll.
perspective where they're getting rid of inspections. Okay, we are done with this topic. Thank you very much for all the calls and texts. Up next, we're going to talk with our national security expert, Juliette Kayyem. We're going to talk about Trump and the GOP now apparently flipping on us supplying arms to Ukraine and what is going on with Jeffrey Epstein and the list and all the fallout and fighting over what's on that list or what isn't on that list and should it be hidden and should it not be hidden. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, artist Steve Locke. His new exhibition at Mass MoCA is titled The Fire Next Time, which takes its name from James Baldwin's 1963 collection of essays, which Baldwin wrote amidst the Civil Rights Movement. Like Baldwin, Locke explores themes of racism, what it means to be a black man in America, and American history. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Commonwealth Shakespeare Company, presenting As You Like It, this summer's free Shakespeare on the Boston Common. Shakespeare's lush romantic comedy celebrating the joys and follies of human nature, July 23rd through August 10th. comshakes.org. And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy and Marjorie. And we're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. A little later in the show, Ken Casey, the lead guy of the Dropkick Murphys, is going to zoom in. They have a brand new album, but they're really here because they stand for something. At least that's why I want them to be here. The album's great, by the way. Plus, David Folkenflik from NPR is going to join us as the Senate is debating as we speak the future of funding for PBS and NPR. But we're joined now at the library by Juliette Kayyem. She and Marjorie and I are all eating hot dogs as we are speaking. Yeah. She's former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and a CNN analyst. Have you swallowed it yet or no? I don't think so. Hello,
very
Juliette.
good.
How are you?
It's very, very good, Juliette.
you.
These are so good.
Aren't they delicious?
Did your mother tell you not to speak with your mouth full?
Yeah,
She ever
but
tell
I
you
mean,
that?
how's it mustard on my?
Yeah, it looks good on you. Go ahead. Okay, fine.
Hi, everyone.
Hello
These
there.
are really, I love hot
They're
dogs.
delicious.
Yeah, so do I.
love hamburgers.
Okay, good.
So Juliette Kayyem, we learning now after this terrible tragedy in Texas with more than 100 people dead and many still missing, that FEMA did not answer thousands of calls from people that were involved in that flood, and also that layoffs from the National Weather Service may have hurt the coordination of the rescue efforts.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason why you don't assess these things the day of, these sort of press conferences that are uniquely Texan, where everyone sort of praises themselves and you learn nothing, are inevitably always followed up with, wait a second, what was going on here? So on two different fronts. So on the National Weather Service front, we know that there were decisions made by the localities about not putting sirens in, lots of debate about who was going to pay, whether they wanted Biden's money. I mean, it's just so dangerous. The National Weather Service was, we heard claims at the beginning that they were fully staffed. That wasn't exactly true. There were people who are part of the National Weather Service who do community outreach and do sort of alert systems and alert communication who were not in place, which we should anticipate. It's so weird for the administration to say, we're going to cut waste, we're going to cut bodies, and then when you see the consequences of that, say, well, no, it's all the same, because it wasn't all the same. You can't have it both ways. On the FEMA front, FEMA also has been impacted by cuts, but good news that Donald Trump's threat to close FEMA at the end of hurricane season has now been retracted. They're going to keep FEMA, but it is under stress and was not able to answer phone calls. Those phone calls come to FEMA when recovery is needed, when people need to get out of their homes, get debris removed. As importantly, we are learning that a new cost-saving mechanism instituted by Secretary Noem that required her specific approval for any expenditure over $100,000, which in disaster management does not get you very far. It gets you a truck.
It's like a drop in a bucket.
Right, was held up for several days. These are
And she has not been truthful about this.
She's a big, I mean, come on, people. She's so in over her head. I'm not going to call her name. She is so in over her head. She can't even finish a sentence having to do with emergency management because all she's focused on is, of course, the border. But she did not approve search and rescue. You only have 72 hours for search and rescue for 72 hours. So the FEMA federal assets were not available to the locals and states who were clamoring for them. This is the consequences of cuts, and the Trump administration has to live with them. It's not anyone else's fault, it's theirs.
You know, let me just reiterate before we move on. This notion for people who are in denial about what the funding cuts, the DOGE cuts do. Let me just read you some numbers about calls to FEMA and put yourself in the place of a survivor who's lost their house, lost somebody they love, lost lots of their possessions. You call FEMA. They received on July 6th 2,363 calls, only answered 846. That's a third. The next day, Monday, July 7th, they got 16,400 calls, only answered 2,600, 16%. What more proof do people need that irresponsible, random cuts, just for the sake of cuts, endanger people's lives?
And those calls make sense to me in the sense of it is when you get out of immediate response into recovery, which is what FEMA is built for, because localities can't really do it on their own, that those calls start to come. I'm in my home, I can't get out, I can't, these are the consequences. Look, we knew that this doging of America's readiness for disasters was going to have impacts. I didn't know they would happen this fast. I am glad that the Trump administration is seeing the obvious, which is you have to keep FEMA. But where's the FEMA head? Can anyone name him? Have you seen him on TV?
I don't know who it is.
Yeah, well, because there isn't one.
Is he the one that didn't? Well, we don't have one.
No, he's already that one. I think he's acting, but he's
the
not
one that didn't know
nominated.
there was hurricane season.
Yeah, and he now knows
Oh,
that.
the one that didn't know it was hurricane.
Yeah.
He didn't know that
the one
hurricane
before him.
existed.
He's already the second nominee because remember the one before him got fired for testifying that he thought FEMA was still necessary, and their intention was to end it. So now FEMA exists, but you need a confirmed head. You need a budget. It's not enough to just say we're not going to get rid of FEMA. So
we're talking to Juliette Kayyem.
So let's talk about Ukraine. The president seems to have changed his mind. He's threatening tariffs against Russia. But he seems to be saying he's going to supply more offensive weapons to Ukraine, and the Republicans that were against doing that have now changed their minds.
Again.
Yeah.
Again. So they just follow him. So just remember, Secretary Hegseth about 2 weeks ago makes a decision not based on any policy design or even any theory to hold back on weapons to Ukraine. Trump apparently did not know about that. I believe that. I believe that the way that the national security decisions are being made is there's no theory from the White House. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is still our national security advisor, which is bizarre, given that the national security advisor should be representative of all the national security apparatus. And Hegseth made this decision on their own. There was a cabinet meeting last week, which was hilarious, where Trump is saying, I don't know who did it. I don't know who did it. And Hegseth is literally next to him like, that was me giving who me look. And then Trump comes back very frustrated with Putin and giving him a deadline. The problem with this strategy is twofold. One, of course, is as you said, is the whimsical nature of our policy. Are we for supporting Ukraine towards a negotiating end, or are we not? And if we are, then stay in line. But of course, the Republicans are just following the tea leaves of the White House. What this deadline does is it gives Putin, whatever the deadline is, 30 days, it gives him sort of carte blanche to bomb as much as he wants and say, yes, I'll be ready for a ceasefire in 30 days because he wants his negotiating position to be strong. We saw that this morning, or we woke up to news this morning that of a major attack by Russia. But the other piece I just want to say is, it seems like Trump changed his mind, not because of any U.S. strategy, but because he was angry that Putin wasn't nice to him. And it's just like this personality-driven foreign policy, as if Trump equals U.S. interests, that it's just an insane way to have a functioning government. And I think we're seeing the dysfunctional nature of it Trump is just mad. It's not like there's a theory behind why he supports Ukraine.
Which is why I worry, as we said to somebody yesterday, maybe it was Michael Kirk, I don't remember who it was, my fear is that as soon as Putin is nice to him again and praises him, he could flip.
Yeah.
The thing that you both passed over quickly, which I think needs another 30 seconds, is almost all the Republicans who decided they were against aid to Ukraine because Donald Trump told them they were against aid to Ukraine. Now that he is for aid to Ukraine, selling these weapons to NATO, which will then deliver them to Ukraine, almost all of them have done a total 180. And when they're asked by a reporter, why did they switch their position? I have great faith in Donald Trump, is their position.
They did the same thing in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Look at, there's no interest but Donald Trump's interest, and that's assuming that Donald Trump has an interest. Donald Trump has no theory of anything. Like, it's just like, what's his mood? How does he feel? You wake up one morning, he wants to take Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship away, and you're there's no consistency. And as last time I was on, I was like, I'm not a doctor, but I do find it odd that questions about his mental capacity to keep a chain of thought. I hear him speak. I've been hearing him speak for 10 years now. It is different now. That should be part of our national security discussion. This is not someone who can retain an idea through a single sentence. And someone somewhere is going to begin to have a serious discussion, as we ought to have had when Biden started to show clear evidence of mental decline.
But you know what they have not followed the president on, a lot of Republicans, including the Speaker of the House, Johnson.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Is Jeffrey Epstein.
I know. I hate this because you're making me
Like, by the way, can I read what Trump posted?
Just now I heard.
This discussion. Here is what the President of the United States put on Truth Social. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this is Trump's word, bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. All these people want to talk about with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Democrats is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings, and he means my supporters who have now differed from me, let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking about our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. It's not just the Speaker of the House. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, the Joe Rogans, all of these podcasters.
Deputy head of the FBI.
That's a very good point. Well, until he quits.
Yeah, but yeah.
So we said to John King yesterday, who's very scrupulous, your colleague at CNN, to not take positions, just report facts. Is it not reasonable to conclude, since Trump is fighting so hard against disclosure, that he is really worried what would be in that disclosure? You subscribe to that too.
I mean, there's one is that he has created a conspiracy for years. Trump has been on this, as have his supporters, that he can no longer stop, and he cannot. This seems to be the thing that he cannot get all of his supporters behind. There is also internal divisions in his own administration between Attorney General Bondi, who will do whatever Trump says. If you want to know my theory of Bondi, if you say, why is she doing this? She's doing everything because she wants to be J.D. Vance's VP pick. That's the only theory of law she has. And what's his name?
Bongino.
A former right-wing podcaster who became famous on this.
Well, he's in a bind now because if he's ever going to go
he's
back
not showing
to
up
being,
to work,
if he's going to go back to being a podcaster where he made tons of money, he can't be this inconsistent.
And these guys from the Trump administration, him and the immigration czar,
Stephen Miller,
Homan, and they come on TV and they're like, woe is me, I'm living away from my wife, I'm working so hard, and people are so mean to me. I'm like, people, like, you are destroying basic functioning of government, and you're a little bit mad because people are pushing back on it. I mean, these guys are the biggest crybabies about their...
Homan's been crying
Oh, yeah,
about?
Homan was on air sort of, talking about, they talk about their marriages. I was like, I don't need to know this. There's like too much information. On the case itself, there are a couple minutes missing from the FBI interview. That seems to be true. I don't think that's a conspiracy.
And missing on the video too.
On the video too about
prison, where he allegedly killed himself.
Right, exactly.
Or didn't kill himself.
Do I think that secrets like every former president was with Epstein on the island or present president can be kept secret? Probably not. It seems weird to me that after all these years, the only person truly implicated is
Prince Andrew. Well, they're obviously covering for somebody, though, even if it's not
right?
him.
And it might be a picture. I mean, it might be not a list, but it might be a picture or two, or an airplane manifest that shows that someone was there. So it's not a list of a lot of famous men, but it is a list that may target one or two particularly famous men, including friends of Donald Trump.
You know what I understand about this? Remember, I always loved when Michael Cohen would either be interviewed or he was the former consigliere for Trump.
That's a great title.
Well, it wasn't mine. I wish I had come up with it. And say, Donald Trump never had to tell you to do a specific evil act. Yeah. You just knew, sort of like Tony Soprano, like, those are my words, not his, the latter part of that thing. The thing that I really don't understand is why hasn't he done the same thing with Pam Bondi or Kash Patel and made clear whatever troubling information in this mountain of information should just disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done before.
It might have. I mean,
Maybe he has.
The trap Bondi's in.
So then why doesn't he come out for transparency himself now and say, okay, I'm going to get you to shut up. You shouldn't have wasted your time on it. Here's everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. But a lot of people think, I've heard people like the FBI guys, the legit FBI guys, saying a lot of this stuff would be difficult to produce anyway because of grand jury secrecy laws.
You redact what you have to redact.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any solution to this, because if you send out redacted documents, that's not going to satisfy people either.
It's clear that Pondy knows she does not want something released, and we just don't know. I don't know if it's a list. That seems too convenient. But she did, she's just stuck in her own trap of right-wing media, because she did say that she had something on her desk, and that's what everyone's focusing on. No pun intended, but we are doing an emergency alert right now.
You know why I know there is a list, actually? You know why I know that?
Why do you know there's a list?
Because Alan Dershowitz says there wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
If Alan Dershowitz goes on podcasts and says there's no lists, I think there's a fairly good chance there are lists.
Okay, so Juliette,
and he's been all over this. He's been interviewed about this, because I guess he's been on the island before, but claims nothing nefarious happened.
What is happening with Israel and Gaza?
I'm looking at Bahrain behind you on CNN. The head of Bahrain is there with the National Security and Economics team. I just want to say one thing visually. The lack of women is it is so shocking. That's a room. I don't see a single sort of senior female
or person of color.
But that's so anyway, that's just because it's my
world. You noticed all the gold?
Rubio's Latino and all.
That's
fairness.
Okay, Latino.
Yeah, but I meant the woman issue.
You notice all the gold that's been added? When you look at the Oval Office now, it's all got all that gilded
and he
stuff
kept
everywhere.
Just as an aside,
look at that about the fireplace.
He kept the FIFA. He was holding up the FIFA trophy, and apparently he kept the original so that the winning teams actually got manufactured ones in this whole. FIFA is going to make Donald Trump happy. They want a very successful games next summer. Okay, so Netanyahu was here without a deal.
That's going to be interesting, the games, because there's a lot of resentment of the United States now, and the immigration issues
I'm in this
and all
World
that.
Cup and the Olympics.
And the Olympics.
I'm sure you're very busy.
It is tall
ships.
Nothing.
Okay, but back to the subject at hand. Netanyahu's at the White House. The theory, what we were being told, the American people, was basically they're going to at some point announce some sort of ceasefire.
No ceasefire.
Didn't happen.
No ceasefire. No deal. So we support Netanyahu in the attacks on Iran. We then initiate our own attacks in Tehran against the nuclear facilities around the country. We do everything that Netanyahu wants. And I got an alert that we have now another couple dozen Gazans killed waiting in line for food. This is Mandy Patinkin. I'm going to quote him.
He's
isn't he amazing? He finally said, what I think Jewish leaders need to say in this country, which is look inside ourselves and ask ourselves if this is what's going on in Gaza is part of our own faith. As you know, for nearly 2 years, I've been yelling about what's happening to the Palestinians and called all sorts of names for it. The Biden administration, in my mind, the leadership in aid and national security are also responsible for this. They viewed the Palestinians as expendable.
They're also creating more anti-Israeli animus.
And we should add the 20-year-old American citizen, Palestinian American, who's beaten to death in the West Bank. And we should also add that there's another big story this morning in the New York Times about Project 2025 that talks about the Esther Project, part of that.
Which is to move the
basically
Palestinians.
You cannot be in favor of Palestinians, period, in this country anymore.
But just talking about Israel and Netanyahu, if you look at Biden's policy and the national security and USAID policy, it's not a natural line to what Trump is doing, but I can draw that line between you give him an inch and he takes a mile. You give him a mile, as Trump has done, and he takes a football field. But what's happening to the Palestinians started with the Biden administration is now unwatchable and inexcusable in the Trump administration. And so Netanyahu is not promising a ceasefire. And I'm obligated to say what Hamas did was horrible. Yes, I get it. right? But we are now 2 years later with no settlement, no ceasefire, and
58,000 people roughly
and
dead.
People can call it what it is. I'm not going to get into names about whether it's a genocide or how you define a genocide. But if the Democratic Party wants to stand for something different than Trump, then they have to be different than what Biden's people did and Biden. I'm blaming his people. What Biden did, and that's the division I think you're seeing throughout the party. It's not left or center left. It is this issue.
Juliette Kayyem, good to see you.
Thank you
so
Juliette.
much for your time and your thoughts.
And a hot dog. Support public radio. It might be a bad day.
We hope not. We're speaking with Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, Faculty Chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. The show continues here in Boston for those listening on NEPM, and thank you for tuning in. You can tune into the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Monty and Khalees discuss the Glasgow Lands Scottish Festival in Northampton. Coming up after the noon news on 89.7 GBH, the ACLU of Massachusetts, Carol Rose, Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. That's right after the news. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. Humans have depended on bees for millennia, but as bee populations collapse around the world, can we save them before it's too late? Find out on a new episode of Human Footprint tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of BPR, live from the BPL. A New Hampshire federal court blocked Donald Trump's executive order restricting birthright citizenship after the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts and other groups brought a class action lawsuit. We'll talk with Executive Director Carol Rose about where the fight is headed, plus why the Supreme Court keeps siding with Trump but never explains why.
I'm Marjorie Egan. We'll talk with the Dropkick Murphys frontman Ken Casey, out with their 13th album, For the People, a collection of everyday protest anthems. Then we'll check in with NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik as the Senate weighs whether to claw BS and NPR. It's all ahead in the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is calling out members of his own base who are demanding the administration release documents about the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a social media post today, Trump accuses his supporters of buying into a hoax about Epstein. The Justice Department and the FBI say the wealthy financier found dead in a federal jail cell in 2019 did not maintain a client list, contrary to what conspiracy theorists and conservative influencers say Attorney General Pam Bondi had previously suggested. Members of Congress are debating legislation that would rescind $9.4 billion. The majority of it was slated for international aid. $1.1 billion was for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds PBS and NPR. NPR CEO Catherine Mars says local stations across the U.S. stand to be especially affected.
70% of all funding goes directly to local stations. NPR receives 1% to 2% of national funding on an annual basis. We're talking $3 million, $5 million. It's not much. I think, unfortunately, this is cutting off their constituents' noses to spite NPR's face. It doesn't help anyone to take this funding away.
Mars speaking to CNN this morning. The U.S. government says a deportation flight carrying 5 migrants has landed in the small southern African nation of Eswatini. Michael Kaloki has details.
The Department of Homeland Security, in a post on X, says the 5 men are from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen. It indicates the men have criminal convictions, ranging from child rape to murder. A ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court last month granted the Trump administration's request to lift a judicial order, requiring that those deported to countries where they are not from and have no connections get a, quote, meaningful opportunity to show they could face harm. Soon after, 8 migrants who had been held in U.S. custody in Djibouti were deported to South Sudan. Some rights groups have challenged the Trump administration's deportations, arguing migrants are not given a chance to plead their cases. For NPR News, I'm Michael Kaloki in Nairobi.
An Israeli-backed American Aid Foundation in Gaza says there was a deadly crowd surge today at its food distribution site. More from NPR's Greg Dixon.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, confirmed in a statement that at least 20 people were killed on Wednesday when a crowd at one of its food sites in Gaza surged. They say most of those deaths were the result of people being trampled. The health ministry in Gaza said tear gas was fired on people seeking food, resulting in the stampede. Since Israel replaced the UN system providing food aid with GHF in May, Gaza health officials say more than 500 people have been killed by Israeli military fire outside the food sites.
That's NPR's Greg Dixon reporting. U.S. stocks are mixed this hour. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell is co-leading a coalition of 20 states in suing the Trump administration over its decision to illegally shut down the Federal Emergency Management Agency's bipartisan Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. That's known as BRIC. This is the program that's designed to protect communities from natural disasters before they strike. In a statement released today, Campbell says that by Trump abruptly and unlawfully shutting down the BRIC program, his administration is abandoning states and local communities that rely on federal funding to protect their residents and, in the event of disaster, save lives. The owner of Churchill Downs, where the Kentucky Derby takes place, has ponied up $180 million to buy a majority stake in the newly opened casino in southern New Hampshire. Churchill Downs Incorporated, or CDI, entered into an agreement to acquire 90% of ownership in the live casino in Salem, New Hampshire. Deal comes after the casino opened its doors last week in a former Lord & Taylor department store space at the mall at Rockingham Park. That's roughly about 30 miles north of Boston. First phase of the casino includes 100 horse racing machines, 13 live table games. CDI officials say they plan to expand and rebrand that casino. And according to its website, CDI also owns 12 casinos in 12 states, as well as 17 historical live and racing properties in New Hampshire, Kentucky, and Virginia. Any Palomino is a Palomino. It's 89 degrees. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys is going to zoom in to the show around 12:30. Going to tell us about his new album. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. And about resistance music, which there is not nearly enough of, but you sure as hell get it from them. We're joined now by Carol Rose, Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Hello, Carol.
Hello. It's great to be here.
Great to see you.
So, Carol, we've heard a lot about birthright, citizenship, Trump's efforts to get rid of it. A federal court has blocked it. What's going on?
Yeah, so birthright citizenship is the basic part of the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, that says if you're born in this country, you're a citizen. And it's a pretty basic constitutional right. And so the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself filed an executive order, issued an executive order on his first day, and we sued him on the first day, about 90 minutes later, trying to take away that and saying that he wants to create a class of children and people in this country who have no citizenship. And talk about creating an underclass. It's just so clearly unconstitutional. Unfortunately, though, the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to rule on the merits of the case, but rather to say that the procedural way of challenging this, which is to say a nationwide injunction. So 3 of the federal courts issued a nationwide injunction saying this is so clearly unconstitutional that you may not move forward with it during the pendency of taking the case up on the merits and ruling that it's unconstitutional, we assume and hope. Unfortunately, though, the court last month, in a troubling, but I want to say limited decision, basically said that you can't have universal injunctions.
Yes.
Okay, so that was what the ruling was, not on the constitutionality or the legality of the executive order, but on the notion of these nationwide injunctions. But the court left open a few other avenues, and one of the avenues is to file a class action lawsuit. So on the same day, once again, and within just about a couple of hours, the ACLU of Massachusetts, together with our colleagues at the National ACLU and the ACLU of New Hampshire and ACLU of Maine, filed a class action, and we got an injunction that from a federal district court here in the First Circuit Court of Appeals, and they put a stay on that until tomorrow. So right now, the executive order against birthright citizenship is being paused. And it's working its way through the courts now as a class action that would protect all children born and now soon to be born who might be subject to this executive order. So we're hoping that that will hold, and that in the meantime the courts will rule it to be unconstitutional.
How often do appellate courts overturn certification of classes for that?
Well, you know, it's interesting because just like the court has been signaling for a long time that it doesn't like these nationwide injunctions, Gorsuch, in his opinion, I think it was Gorsuch, said in his concurrence that he doesn't like them either. And so I think there's doesn't like class actions either. And so in this case, it's relatively easy to prove because it's anyone who would be impacted, right, by this executive order. In other kinds of unconstitutional actions by the government, it's harder to prove because you have to prove commonality, numerosity, typicality. There's all these hoops you have to jump through. So it's harder, and the danger when you have to use the class action mechanism as opposed to the nationwide injunction is that you could end up with this patchwork where you could have a class action in Texas and Oklahoma where some people are not protected and people in Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Vermont are protected and things like that. So it could really lead to a lot of chaos. And the other really disturbing thing about this is that from that sort of patchwork, the Supreme Court seems to be saying, not so much, what they really are, it was really a ruling against the lower courts, if anything. And the Supreme Court was saying, only we get to decide if there's a nationwide issue. And they're doing so through what they're calling the shadow docket, which is this secret docket where they decide a case without issuing an opinion often, without any reasoning, without any briefs, without any oral argument. So it's incredibly undemocratic to use this shadow docket as a way for the Supreme Court to assert itself over the lower federal courts.
You know, I was reading, there's a story in the New York Times by Adam Liptak. Supreme Court keeps ruling in Trump's favor but doesn't say why. There are actually some legal scholars, and I use the term loosely, who say, well, this is probably good that they don't tell us for reasons of speed. And that's sort of the fact that the American people don't know why certain rights are being enforced and certain rights it's okay to trample upon. That at minimum we be given notice as to the reasoning is unbelievable to me.
Right, and the amount of cases that are now going before the shadow docket, it's increased exponentially. I mean, it used to be very rare. It was really in emergency cases, almost always in death penalty cases where, you know, somebody was about to be executed.
Well, that was an emergency, right? A death penalty thing
Those
is an emergency.
Actually
all these things that are emergencies, I think there's an emergency. How do they define emergency?
Donald Trump wants it. That's how they define an emergency.
Well,
I mean, that is essentially.
It is essentially.
And there's been a lot written about how the Supreme Court seems to be doing what he wants in a lot of these most recent cases that we've talked about. But, you know, we were talking yesterday, actually it was Michael Kirk from Frontman. They had a great piece last night about Trump's grabs for powers. And it was talking about how one of the theories that was put forth in this Frontline thing is the Supreme Court does not want to get itself into a situation where they do something that really ticks off Trump, and then Trump says, I'm not going to follow the ruling. So that leaves us in a terrible, if that's right.
Right. Well, and
do you think it's right?
Here,
and if it is right, where does that leave us?
Well, I think it leaves us with Trump having captured all three branches of the government and a real crisis in our democracy. Now, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're getting there very quickly and we're very close to it. And it's so important that the court be held to account. And by using the shadow docket, the American people don't know. We don't hear the arguments. We don't get to read the briefs. We don't get to understand the court's reasoning. And so they end up sort of doing it by fiat, which is incredibly undemocratic and really concerning. And I've said for a long time that, the courts still are doing a lot, just like across the board. The federal courts are doing a lot. Mm-hmm. They're putting up speed bumps, and some speed bumps will become bollards. But the real danger is that we can't rely on the courts alone. We have to be working in our state legislatures, in our cities and towns, and with people power. I mean, just this Thursday, there's going to be Make Good Trouble rallies out on the Boston Common and across the Commonwealth and across the country. And it's important that the American people show up, because elected officials watch that. And when people show up and take to the streets, elected officials pay attention, and they will begin to take action to protect our democracy.
Well, I'm sorry, go Mark.
I was just going to say, it's worth pointing out that a lot of judges have issued these remarks about the cases that have come before them at the lower level, but they're federal judges, and some of them are Trump appointees, and a lot of them are Bush appointees. I mean, they're appointed by Republican presidents who say things that this is crazy, some of the stuff that the government is asking the courts to do.
Let's be clear what you're talking about, because we're going to make a reading recommendation. The editorial board of the New York Times over the weekend put this thing out, and the headline is, egregious, these are quotes, egregious, brazen, lawless, how 48 judges, federal judges, describe Trump's actions in their own words. What they do is they describe the issue for each of the 48 decisions. They then describe, as Marjorie said, who the judge was nominated by, Republican, Democrat, who that Republican or Democrat was. And then they have the quote, and it's very powerful, and you should get it, and maybe it'll give you almost as much hope as Carol Rose has, which is more than I have, that's for sure. However, at the end of the day, no matter how courageous the district courts are and the appellate courts are, things that really matter end up in front of people who seem to think they're Trump's law firm. I mean, on birthright citizenship, for example, I hesitate to ever ask anybody to predict what the decision on the merits would be, but I'm assuming that most people who actually understand the court think that while Alito and Thomas will figure out a way to violate the 14th Amendment and say it didn't mean what it says very clearly, that's a winning case, not just because you're positive, but because there's really no argument against it.
It's a fairly straightforward, it's clearly unconstitutional, it's clearly illegal, and that's why the Trump administration decided to raise the issue of nationwide injunctions on procedural block rather than taking the case up on the merits, because I think they know that the court, it's unimaginable that the court would rule against birthright citizenship, something so profoundly part of our constitutional makeup and our national makeup. So I think that's why. But we're trying to find a way. We're going to, whatever happens, ACLU lawyers and other this, and everybody says, well, they're coming back. Trump 2.0 is coming back smarter than they were before. But you know what? So are we.
Let's talk about Ketanji Brown Jackson as Supreme Court Justice. She's really emerged as quite a leader of the opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah, she's been great. And I'm so proud. I have to say, she and I were co-clerks.
Oh, really?
For Judge Patty Sarah. So I had the honor and opportunity to know Ketanji.
Who's a buddy of yours? Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's a great judge.
A great judge. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is becoming an amazingly great justice. And she is using her voice and not being cowed. And reading the case, the CASA case, the birthright citizenship case, it was so interesting because Amy Coney Barrett, who wrote the majority opinion, sort of attacks Ketanji Brown. And then says, I'm not going to spend more time attacking Ketanji Brown Jackson. And then goes on for 5 more paragraphs.
To attack her. Yeah, right.
So she's clearly, Justice Jackson is clearly getting under the skin of the other justices because she is speaking truth. And I think that history will show, just like in cases like the Dred Scott case, that the dissents can be incredibly important historically and over time in shaping the jurisprudence of the court over time.
Here's
so
a
I think
sound.
What she's
By the
doing
way,
is important.
it's one thing to write it in an opinion, which takes a lot of courage. But to say it publicly, and I don't understand why these judges are not more outspoken. Here's Justice Jackson, and speaking of the Indianapolis Bar Association, when asked by a questioner what keeps her up at night, here's a little piece of her answer.
I would say that I am really very interested in getting people to focus and to invest and to pay attention to what is happening. in our country and in our government.
And she goes on to say she's very worried about the future of democracy.
Yes.
And I think having a justice, instead of being mute except when they've got a robe on, speaking out in the world, and hopefully it trickles out to real people, is a real positive thing.
It's a really positive thing. And I think all of us who raise our voices, when you raise your voice, when you invite me on your show, when people talk in your homes, in your communities, raise your voice. It's very important. It's not about othering people who don't agree with us politically, but it is about going back to first principles of what makes this country great, and certainly obeying the Constitution and the checks and balances is part of that.
Well, you know what's great? I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Adam Liptak, who covers the Supreme Court for the Times, and he was saying that a lot of the judges, and I think he included John Roberts, didn't write their own single dissent for years.
Like 5 years out, right.
Yeah, for years and years and years. And she's barely there. And she's fearless, clearly.
She is fearless
which
and
I
brilliant.
so admire.
It's so great, and it's so important, and she is a role model and a beacon of hope for all of us. I do have to say that. And for people who are, concerned about democracy, that's because you're paying attention. But there are lots of reasons for hope, and action is a really big part of that. And listening to what Ketanji Brown Jackson has to say, along with Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan and others, is a really good way to brighten your day on those moments of despair.
Boy, you are really something, I'll tell you. I think you actually believe it, too, which is really, I know you do.
Jim, hope is a political act. I've said this before, and you have to choose.
Yeah.
Okay, she's not giving up yet, Jim. That's what she's saying. She's
never
giving up.
I'm strategically defined, and I am never giving up.
It's
I
like
love my country.
Same thing when Congresswoman Presley calls.
I know.
Same kind of deal, and then there's us.
Okay, so this was a little disturbing that a ICE official, we've talked a lot about Rumeysa Öztürk. She's the woman that's a doctoral student.
She's our client.
At Tufts University, and she was, I would say, kidnapped off the street by masked ICE agents, didn't know what this was going to happen to her, thought she was being kidnapped, didn't know who they were, kept for 6 weeks in this detention facility for co-writing an op-ed that never mentioned anything about Hamas. It was just about protecting Palestinians. Well, apparently she was targeted by ICE.
Yes.
We've learned.
So this is a really interesting case. This is not
higher ups you're talking about, not people on the ground.
Yeah. Right. So this is a really interesting case that, again, is being brought here in Federal District Court here in Massachusetts, and it's being brought by the Knight Foundation for First Amendment, and on behalf of AAUP, which is the American Association of University Professors, right, and students who have been targeted simply because of their free speech. And Rumeysa Öztürk, the Tufts graduate student who was kidnapped off the streets by masked, plainclothes ICE agents and whisked off to Louisiana. And we are her lawyers in that case. We have managed to set her free on bond, on bail, and so she's out right now. But she was, we never were able to figure out why was she picked up, why was she targeted, why was she punished. And what's coming forward in this AAUP Knight case is that she and other students are being targeted simply because of their speech, simply because she wrote an op-ed in the Tufts Student Daily newspaper. And the notion that we would in our country punish people simply because of their exercise of an op-ed, there's no criminality there. And the ICE agent who was the witness who was testifying said he'd never seen anything like this before where someone's been targeted. No crime has been alleged or shown, nothing other than one single op-ed in a student newspaper. And when ICE is able to start picking people up and putting them in prisons thousands of miles away from their communities, thousands of miles away from their lawyers, simply because they don't like a student op-ed, that's a real serious alert that we need to get involved and take action to save our democracy. And that's what we did in defending her rights.
I think a lot of people are very concerned that there was so much money allotted to ICE in this so-called big, beautiful bill, which I think is a bad, terrible bill. But in any case, for ICE, what is it that FBI, all these agencies together
don't get as much money.
Don't get as much money as ICE does. I would imagine that that's what this is for, these continued grabbing of people.
It's grabbing people. It's setting up detention centers.
Building the wall.
I mean,
Alcatraz.
Right, and now they're saying that they're going to try to deny any kind of a bond hearing for anybody who's picked up. Nope, they haven't committed any crimes, right? But when the Trump administration says, well, they've committed a crime, what they've done is they've overstayed their visa. But that's not a crime. That's a civil offense.
And so it's coming across the border, is it not?
Right, and so what they're doing here is just illegal. It's just wrong and it's unconstitutional. And again, your ACLU, we have an office in all 50 states. We have a national office, and we are stepping up to the plate. And every time we're trying to challenge these in court.
But here
and
again,
we are going to at least slow them down and hopefully stop them.
But look at what the Supreme Court has done about this. You can send people off to countries they didn't come from. They just send a bunch of people
South
to
Sudan.
a little tiny country in Africa.
And that's why it's going to be important. I just want to say the ACLU is nonpartisan. We don't get involved in elections, but I will say that the midterm elections next year are going to be incredibly important because if all the branches of government are lost, then our democracy is truly in peril.
Okay, so wait. Midterms are really important next year. I will say what I say every time someone says that. That's assuming we make it to the midterms.
Yeah.
And if we make it to the midterms, the Trump administration is now seeking voter data and the right to inspect voting equipment. Call me cynical, but I would say that may have something to do with the 2026 midterms.
No, I think you're right, Jim.
What are you doing about it?
Well, so the ACLU Voting Rights Project, we have sued on this before, and we're going to sue on it again because, you know what, they're not allowed to interfere in elections, and we're going to work with the state secretaries of state in all 50 states. I mean, they haven't come to Massachusetts yet, but I think it's going to be the role of the secretaries of state is going to be incredibly important in defending the basic right of voters to have their right to vote, and so that's why the ACLU put so much resources into voting rights.
Can I return to this Ozturk thing for a second?
Sure.
And I've asked this question of another guest, and it may be you, and if it's you, don't embarrass me by saying you've asked me this twice already. So as you described, this woman is walking down the street in Somerville.
That's right.
She is apprehended. Marjorie said kidnapped. I think that's it's fair to assume that she would assume she's being kidnapped.
She thought she was being kidnapped.
So they're masked. They don't identify themselves. Mm-hmm. These it's men and women, right? Is there at least one woman?
Yes.
I think. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in this thing, and I would assume it is legal if you think you're about to be kidnapped or harmed to fight back.
Right.
Let's assume Ozturk, for argument's sake, was armed.
Right.
And Ozturk decided to shoot somebody that she thought was attempting to kidnap her off the streets of Somerville. What happens to her in a situation like that when a reasonable person has no way to know that those are government agents as opposed to people trying to do something horrible to you? What happens to her?
Well, you know, I think there's a legal question about what happens. Does she have a right to self-defense? And that would be litigated. But I think the more realistic...
Well, someone who's being kidnapped, who thinks they're being kidnapped, has a right to self-defense.
That's what I'm saying. Someone who thinks they're being kidnapped has a right to self-defense. But I would also just say, you know, it was interesting. I was invited by a friend to go and try to get my gun license together. And I asked my son what he thought I should do. And he said, you know, Mom, I think when the militia surrounds our house and tries to take you away, I don't think you're going to shoot your way out very effectively. So I think there's the legal question and then there's the real world question.
I'm not arguing that people should be armed. I'm just saying if someone is or fights back, punches one of these people and harms them greatly, if it's a reasonable response to a reasonable belief that you're being kidnapped and maybe worse, it seems to me
they would be arrested and charged with assault and battery on a police officer, and their defense lawyer would argue they shouldn't be charged with that because they had a reasonable belief to believe they were being kidnapped. And so it would be litigated in the courts.
Okay, can I say one more hopeful thing since what's hope is a political act?
Hope is a political act, Jim.
For we are sort of hope deprived here on the show, at least one of us is. I want to repeat what Marjorie mentioned before. This thing in the New York Times, if you want to feel a little bit better about the state of the world. Again, Google the words egregious, brazen, lawless. 48 federal judge, their excerpts, the New York Times editorial pages takes from their decision, essentially trashing Trump, egregious, brazen. Some of them are Trump nominees.
Yes,
some of them are George Bush
nominees,
etc. Judges who believe in the rule of law. It's really heartening, I have to say.
What we should point out, people who say that they're afraid to speak out, politicians who say, well, my family's going to get threatened, they're going to have death threats and all this kind of stuff. These judges are enduring the same sort of harassment and fear from people attacking them. Mm-hmm. And thank goodness that they have the courage to stand up, because our politicians in many cases do not.
You are so right. And I have to tell you, we are really seeing, the ACLU here in Massachusetts, we have so many cases. I mean, we have, I don't know, half a dozen or more cases that we're bringing just here in Massachusetts and probably a dozen across New England. And what we're seeing is that the federal judges are, not only are they beginning to realize what's going on here, how the scofflaw approach that the DOJ lawyers are bringing, but they're becoming angry about it and they're losing their patience about it. And because these are judges, whoever they're appointed by, they are people who believe in the rule of law and they are upholding the rule of law. And it's very interesting to watch them becoming more aware and angry and ruling in ways that are less patient than they were initially with the Department of Justice lawyers under the Trump administration.
Carol
and
Rose,
that's heartening.
Nice to see you from
Great
the
to
Civil
be here.
Liberties
Thank
Union.
you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much, Carol Rose. We've been speaking with Carol Rose, who's executive director, of the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. I ate that hot dog, and it's really disrupting my speech.
I think it's the relish that does that.
The relish has put me over the edge.
Yeah.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, Dropkick Murphys frontman Ken Casey zooms in to talk about his new album of resistance for the people and the imperative for musicians and artists to join those judges and speak out on policies they believe are illegal. I am Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
"80-year-old Bob Becker became the oldest person ever to complete the grueling Badwater 135 ultramarathon last week, starting in Death Valley's sweltering heat and covering 3 mountain ranges.
When you hit that finish line and you actually have reached your goal, you're half exalted and half falling apart.
How Becker ran 135 miles in just 48 hours on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport, offering a range of experiences, including a variety of accommodations, a 24-hour art gallery, and more. Reservation information available at omnibostonhotel.com. And South Coast Artists, presenting its 22nd annual Open Studio Tour July 19th and 20th in Tiverton and Little Compton, Rhode Island, and Dartmouth and Westport, Massachusetts. You can download the tour brochure at southcoastartists.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg. Yep, he's the guy who was included in the phone call with the national security people. Recently described our next guest this way, quote, "the physical, attitudinal, and linguistic personification of Boston." He was, of course, writing about Ken Casey, founding member, frontman of the great Dropkick Murphys, local kid who's been making music about the working class since the mid-90s, and still they use their platform at every opportunity to rail against injustice and inequities. The band has a great new album out, their 13th, appropriately titled For the People. Here's a little bit of Who'll Stand With Us. Okay, well, that could get me doing something.
Yeah.
Go to dropkickmurphys.com. Ken Casey is zooming in. Happy National Hot Dog Day, Ken. How are you?
Hey, I didn't know. I'll have to put some on the grill.
Yeah.
Have a few.
Yeah.
On us.
Great to talk to you, and congratulations. And listening to your album, I got all revved up. I was
Me too.
I was like ready to go. But I mean, you had quite a week. The Dropkick Murphys night at Fenway Park, and the 400th anniversary of Quincy, and here we are at the tail end. You're talking to us. So tell us about this album.
This album, so our prior 2 albums were kind of a departure where we did 2 full-length albums of unpublished Woody Guthrie lyrics that, the family had granted us access to that, he just never got to record or put to music before he died, so the family never has any idea of what the intention was for them. So we took them and put music to them and took them in a direction that was Dropkick Murphys, but also that, we think Woody would have liked, and therefore we did them both fully acoustic. And when I say acoustic, I don't mean acoustic instruments plugged through an amp. I'm talking no amps. So that was a challenge, and that had us ready at this point to come roaring back out of the gates, That coupled with the times we're in makes for sadly makes for good punk rock. I guess that's one of the maybe few good things that'll come out of this. But then again, there's a lot of bands that aren't even speaking up. So I don't know. What do I know?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about. I mean, I don't know how you like your music described. I was going to say, listening to this whole thing last night, it's great protest, resistance music. And then I said to myself, well, that's the Dropkick Murphys always do protest, resistance music. But other than your good buddy Bruce Springsteen, why is almost nobody in your industry doing what you're doing?
Credit where credit is due. There's a few bands like Green Day and Rise Against and things that are starting to, and there's some on a smaller level. But a lot of those, like I'd say, what I would describe like Dropkick's mid-level working bands. Like we have big followings, but we have to work and tour a lot, and the thought of your business being dramatically affected is, I guess, is scary to a lot of bands. And then, of course, maybe your safety being, dramatically affected as well. Sorry, someone's calling me. My mother's calling me.
Oh, let's talk to your mother. We know your mother. She used to be a client in my old life.
She'll sidetrack this whole thing. Anyway.
So why, okay, fine. That's a good explanation, Ken Casey. So why are you remember the great Michael Jordan line? He never took a political position because he said Republicans buy sneakers too. You've decided that Republicans buy, or Trumpsters buy music too, but you got to stand your ground. So why are you different?
So this has always been what we're about. The first, our very first album was, a previous generation of union workers from a union local I was in. And the first line of the very first album is, the one steel tough fabric of the union man was sold and bought it away, led by money wolves in the Reagan years, And so how would we start like that and then be quiet now? And the thing, a lot of great punk bands and musicians spoke out about against Reagan and Bush. The difference between Reagan and Bush is they didn't have an army of trolls. The internet and social media wasn't there to accommodate it. And so I think a lot of bands now just say, well, let me just keep my head down. And then a lot of them, their personal social medias and whatnot, they'll speak out as individuals, but as a business, they don't. And listen, we'll all take the airwaves back. If we all did it, the fear would go out of it, and we would have the power of the airwaves back. And that's what we need. And I don't know. I don't see any other option than for Dropkick Murphys to speak up. No, I get it. There's an element of our fan base that's like, I just like shipping up to Boston, and I like to go have a good time, and I didn't even know they were political, to which a lot of our fans will say, did you ever listen to more than one or two songs? But I get it. People have different levels of, there's a lot of people that I say, I like that band, but ask me if I know more than two of their songs, and I wouldn't. I might recognize more. But so I get that everyone doesn't understand where we're coming from, but I just know that when we speak out, it's from the heart, and it's in a passionate way that we believe this is what's right, and we believe that it's our obligation, and anyone with a pulpit to speak from needs to use it.
Amen.
Well, we're talking to Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. A lot of people may know about this, but in case you don't, you were at a concert in Boston. It was in March, and there was a fan in the crowd that wore a Make America Great Again hat. Here's you addressing that person from the concert.
If you're in a room full of people and you want to know who's in a cult, how do you know who's in a cult? They've been holding up a f***ing hat the whole night to represent a president. This is America. There's no kings here.
No kings.
So tell us about that incident. What happened with the shirt and meeting with the guys afterwards?
Oh, shirt was a separate incident.
Oh, the shirt was a separate incident.
But they contrast in a great way. The incident you just talked about, I'm not triggered to say, oh my God, this guy's got a MAGA shirt, I'm going to lose my mind. This particular guy had a hat that he was holding the whole night, shoving in people's faces. His clear purpose of being there was to, intimidate and antagonize people. And actually, earlier parts in the show, I had to ask the crowd to not do anything to him. And so, of course, that's the stuff never gets caught on video. Me trying to, protect the guy, for better or for worse. And he had that look of like anger, and I'm here to cause trouble. And we have fans that are paying to come to the show, and they don't want are happy and rubbed in their face the whole night. So that's how that came about. Now the other kind of viral interaction with the fan is in Florida a week or so prior. There was a father, son, a couple other people. They all had MAGA hats. They were front row. They had a blow up of Trump's head that you'd hold on a stick. So clearly they were there to they wanted the attention and they wanted the interaction. But they didn't have these menacing looks on their face, and so I thought to myself, I guarantee you that merchandise isn't made in America, and Dropkick Murphys merchandise is. And listen, I'm not trying to be the police here going around checking people's tags, but if you walk around in merchandise that is sole purpose is to say, make America great, the irony that, you wouldn't check the tags is just boggles my mind. But anyway, I made a bet with the guy and I said, I will give you $100 and a Dropkick Murphys Made in America shirt if I lose the bet and your merchandise is made in America. But if you lose the bet, you take off your shirt and give it to me, and I'll replace it with a Dropkick Murphys Made in America shirt. And of course, the shirt was made in Nicaragua. And to their credit, they all took the shirts off and threw them on stage, and we gave them much better shirts. And I had a nice chat with him afterwards. And I said, hey, thanks for being a good sport. I said, my interactions with MAGA don't often go that way. And he said, I consider you guys family. I've been coming to see you for 20 years. I don't fall out with people. I don't fall out with family over politics. And that was a great lesson for me, because I got to realize that there is a humanity on once again, I also want to preface that I'm not talking about, and clearly this, we're not talking about, maybe a moderate Republican, what I would have considered a Republican in the past. I'm talking about, people who are all for locking people in cages in a swamp, that are all for, that with joy like to see, free school lunches taken away, and hardworking people that have been here 20 years that have never committed a crime locked up. This is what I'm talking about. And when I interact with people that are that far down the MAGA rabbit hole, it's not usually as good a conversation, and that this one was. And I think if America is ever going to find its way out of this mess, we all have to be able to get back to treating each other, as human beings again, or it's just going to be a ping pong of hate back and forth between whatever, it's almost, in some ways it's wild. The MAGA is almost quieter when they're in power, and when they're out of power, they won't shut the F up, blaming everybody in the world. When they're in power now, they're just doing such horrible things that we have to obviously take back control of our government at the polls. But I would like to dream of a day when politics was boring again, and lifelong friends that I grew up with that I don't really talk to anymore, over this stuff. It's sad. It's all sad,
We're talking to Ken Casey from the Dropkicks. Their new CD, their 13th, by the way, is just out. It's fabulous. It's called For the People. Check it out. Go to dropkickmurphys.com. So we're talking to Ken, who is my nominee based on that for the Nobel Peace Prize, not Donald Trump. But before we treat each other well, there's got to be a resistance. You guys live the resistance. Marjorie and I talked a lot on the air, Ken, about after Trump signs this bill on July 4th, which the American people said in polls 2-1 they didn't like. There was no spontaneous actions on the street. There was no spontaneous anything, and it was deeply troubling to us. Why do you think there was such a tepid reaction to something so savage?
Well, shout out to 5051 and all these groups, Indivisible, that are on a purely volunteer basis, like organizing these big events. And there's one tomorrow, by the way, starting in Copley, Good Trouble lives on in memory of Pell there, and they're marching to the Common, and that's from 5 and then 6 on the Common, and I'm going to try to be there for that. And those, I really like having been part of the April one, was just amazed by how quickly they were able to pull that together. But yes, you're talking about a somewhat organized event with a stage and with speakers. And you're right, I wonder where is the whole, like, I'm just getting out of my house and going somewhere to protest. I don't know. And that's when you see other countries, if you want to make the most recent comparison to South Korea, how that just, that element of the country just mobilized. You often hear the geographical differences we suffer from with such a large country, that it's hard to have that mobilization have the same effect that a smaller country whose population center is, condensed into one area. And then you also have the talk of, okay, could we have a general strike? Listen, we can't even get unions to be at the level that we would need to have a successful general strike. And if you can't even get the rank and file union members yet to get to a point where they're ready to shut the country down, then you're certainly not going to get the rest of the country, just because they almost won't understand it. So there's got to be a combination of continued grassroots organization and just people just doing their own thing, and of course we're lucky because we have the format to be able to do so with an audience, whether it be social media or on stage at a show. And listen, the last thing I want to be talking about is this clown or any of this. I'd rather be just playing music, having a good time. People act like me and the band take pleasure in this. Like we had a good run of 20 plus years of just playing music and showing up for picket lines and things like that when we could and we needed to, but nothing to the level of this. And nobody wants to be here, but we're here. And are we gonna roll over for a guy like Stephen Miller, little nerd from
Marjorie's favorite? Marjorie's favorite, my friend.
I want to give that guy a wedgie, man.
Yeah. Well,
so does the audience, Ken.
Speaking of favorite guys, Jim routinely pokes fun at my political suggestions and candidates and stuff like that. But you and I are on the same page about one guy. I like Andy Beshear from Kentucky because I think he's sort of he's a little bit of a Boy Scout kind of guy, but he's sort of a moderate Democrat, and he's a likable kind of guy. Why do you think he might be a good guy to look at for the 2028 elections?
Sure. Well, I'm always impressed by these people that have popularity, a Democrat that can achieve popularity in a red state.
Yeah,
because
Kentucky,
that goes back to some of that healing that maybe needs to happen. You know what I mean? I'm all for, listen, I'm a pretty progressive guy. Like I'm all for, the Bernie AOC message is right up my alley, but I'm also a realist. And I know in my small world, I'll just say people in my circle who were your typical Boston Democrat that have all shifted to Trumpers, they're not coming back for AOC. And it's just the realities. Is it right? No, but it's the realities. So somebody who could maybe be that, bridge the gap. I guess Joe Biden was, going to be that. But someone who has a proven track record, of popularity in a red state as a Democrat is of interest to me. Is he fiery enough? No, but maybe we need to be bringing down the rhetoric a little anyway. And if he can get things accomplished, I don't know. I wish I had the answers. I just know that we'll just keep opening our mouths and doing what we do. And people with way more brain power than us, we'll have to step in after that.
We need one more answer, though. The University of Michigan says that every hot dog you eat, Ken Casey, takes 36 minutes off your life. In light of that, how many hot dogs are you going to have to celebrate National Hot Dog Day? Be honest.
I don't have a Red Sox game or anything on the books today, obviously. So I'll probably just have one out of duty.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to say. Say hi to your mom. The album is fabulous. We're really glad to see you, Ken. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, congratulations, and thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. We really appreciate it, Ken.
The album is spectacular.
Thank you.
Just spectacular.
We've been speaking with Dropkick Murphys frontman Ken Casey. The new album, For the People, is now available to stream. You can pre-order the physical album at dropkickmurphys.com. That's dropkickmurphys.com. It is an album of protest songs, and it's really inspiring. Thanks again to Ken Casey. Coming up after a quick break, the Senate narrowly moved to the floor a rescission package that would take back, basically stop funding the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. Congress has a Friday deadline to pass it into law. We're going to talk with David Folkenflik, NPR media correspondent, about what this means for public media in America. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Trusted, local news.
The Department of Homeland Security says it plans to subpoena Harvard for information on its foreign students.
GBH News.
Travelers at Logan Airport are celebrating a new policy dropping the shoes off requirement at TSA checkpoints.
Here for what matters to you.
Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell says her office is actively investigating the bankruptcy and breakup of the Steward healthcare system.
GBH 89.7. Online at gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Newport Mansions, presenting The Gilded Age and Beyond, a conversation with Tony Award-winning actor Christine Baranski, moderated by Jared Bowen of GBH's The Culture Show, August 7th at the Elms in Newport. Information at newportmansions.org. And GM Roth Design Remodeling, Dreams Delivered, with custom kitchens, bathrooms, and additions. Serving New England for over 39 years. Learn more at gmroth.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. She's Marjorie Egan. I'm Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The Senate narrowly, with Vice President Vance casting the tie-breaking vote, sent an amended Corporation for Public Broadcasting defunding measure to the full Senate floor. Debate is expected to end today. If it passes, goes back to the House because it's been changed, and they have until Friday to put it on Donald Trump's desk. We're joined on Zoom by NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik to discuss where things stand and to discuss the Trump get his way. David, it's good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Good to join you, friends.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here, David. So to repeat what Jim said, where do things stand?
Well, what you have now is a bill that is going to be up for debate later today. You're hearing Democrats take the Senate floor to condemn it for various reasons. It is the rescission request, something we haven't seen in many decades in this way, from President Trump, asking to claw back it's been pared back by the Senate to $9 billion, mostly foreign aid, but all of the previously approved money for public broadcasting, $1.1 billion that Congress had, led by Republicans and signed by the president, had already allocated for the next 2 years for public broadcasting. Most of that goes to public television, public radio stations across the country.
And what is this going to mean? You know, we've heard that it's going to be catastrophic for smaller stations, not so catastrophic for bigger ones. What's the impact if they do take this money away?
Well, I think it's significant, but I also think we don't 100% know. Look, NPR has said, and rightly, that it only receives about, in the average year, about 1% of its revenues from the federal government. For PBS, that figures at more like 15%. For radio stations, about 8 to 10%. For public television stations, on average, 15%. Some of those stations, it can be 20, 30, 40, 50% of their revenues. And often, as you suggest, smaller stations serving what are called underserved communities, often rural communities, sometimes Native American tribal communities, sometimes Latino communities, or historically serving African American. Those may not have the same philanthropic, corporate, and donor support levels. And those stations may have to combine. Those stations may have to pare back programming or local reporting. Those stations may be in trouble. This is a funny one, but we've been talking about this inside at NPR for a while. The Washington Post wrote about it recently. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is this privately chartered corporation that often is thanked at the end of PBS shows, sometimes
Yes.
on NPR shows, right? You've heard it before.
Yeah.
They basically are the conduit through which this federal money goes to public broadcasters, and it's also intended as something of a heat shield, so to insulate it from political pressures. They also do things like negotiate music rights. So all these alternative rock shows that are on stations across the country these stations theoretically would have to independently negotiate deals. One lawyer involved told me it could take, a year or two to negotiate each individual deal for these stations. What do these guys do? This sounds like it's kind of small change compared to a lot of stuff. I think it's significant. It's part of the texture of communities across the country. For rural stations, I spoke with the president and CEO of a station based in Evansville, Indiana, a small city in southwest Indiana, but it serves a largely rural community. And he says, listen, we got over 15% of our funding each year from the state, and that just got zeroed out of state budget. He said, we could stand to lose, the money we stand to lose would take us to almost 50% every year.
Yeah.
He said, donors are stepping up. People are more aggressively contributing money, but we can't possibly fill that. He said, you know what we'll do in the next 2 years? We'll eat up our entire reserves. We will probably have to sell our downtown headquarters, although I don't know where we'll go. And after that, we may have to go off the air. So these are real things. At the moment, public broadcasting serves, depending on your estimate, between 95 and 99% of the U.S. population. It's a mission to serve everyone. And you could see that really come down in the absence of major other factors or forces coming forward to offer funding for it. And I think we can talk about this more, but I think you'll see significant reconfiguration of what public media looks like in coming years as a result.
David, in addition to the financial calculations you described so well there, I don't want to leave out the psychological pain this causes for people to see their colleagues. We've had layoffs here at GBH, to see their colleagues who they respect deeply lose their job, see this institution they believe in deeply having to retrench in so many ways. And the horrible miscalculation I made, and as we were just saying to our prior guest, I'm not a positive person at all. I thought the brilliance of the Inflation Reduction Act was that Biden put so much of the climate infrastructure stuff in red states. They'd never vote against something that created jobs and that sort of thing. And of course, the Republicans did. And I thought here again, when you see so many red members of Congress have constituents who are primarily dependent upon, let's say, an NPR or a local PBS station for their basic information, their children's shows, their warnings in weather disasters, I assume that would convert enough to keep this alive. Why do you think I was so wrong, David Folkenflik?
I think that there's a confluence of factors. I don't think you can, let's address the biggest elephant in the room, literally, first. And that's that Trump has put this front and center, has put the press and put NPR and public broadcasting as an avatar of that, in some ways at the heart of his culture wars. And so this is a way in which he can influence, he's sued and received settlements in some ways legally unwarranted from the parent companies of ABC and CBS News for fights that really did not seem to amount to strong legal cases. But this is a way in which the government does intersect with media. This is a lever that could be used against the press, and here it is. He has said as recently as last week, essentially he would work against congressional Republicans to get this done. I think there also is a sense that lawmakers are either fond of or tolerant of, or willing to endure local public media in a way that they find the national networks, and particularly NPR, objectionable. NPR is consistently characterized as serving the coast. I can say I go across the country to speak to journalists at local stations across the system, but also to speak to donors and audiences for free. And so I get feedback. People seem to be absolutely willing to just unburden themselves of whatever they say. And people are sometimes frustrated, but in red states as well as blue, in places like Indiana and Alabama and others, I've spoken to people, they really value public media, and they aren't being served by the commercial media in that way. Well, and that they feel that they're hearing voices that are of and from, and that are reporting on and steeped in a commitment to those regions. And you're seeing senators one after another saying, essentially beating the heck out of us at the national level, the network, but say, well, we do value public radio. Perhaps they can find other funding other way.
Well, you know what I wonder, David Folkenflik? Senator Mike Rounds from South Dakota was happy he got this $1 million carve-out for his tribal radio stations there and in other states. But I'm thinking, I don't know enough about these tribal radio stations, but they certainly aren't hooked up to a national thing like National Public Radio. I mean, what are these stations, and can they begin to take the place? I don't know. Can they begin to take the place of the local stations?
They are local stations themselves.
Right.
They are part of the broader public radio system, for sure.
They are part of the public radio, okay.
They are. I believe he was able to secure a promise for $6 million out of what's called the Green New Deal from the Interior Department. So again, this will wipe out funding for a Corporation for Public Broadcasting entirely. Forget just NPR or PBS. But this would come from the Interior Department, as at least he's described it. I believe $6 million for 28 stations. Now, let me say this. I've been trying to reach out to folks to figure out the idiosyncrasies of this, but I don't think that money is guaranteed in perpetuity. Yeah. So this may be a temporary reprieve for some tribal stations, but they have themselves sent a letter, and indeed there was a op-ed from the head of the Alliance of Tribal Stations this morning, saying essentially, we appreciate your work, Senator Rounds, but this doesn't do it for us. We're
good for them,
calling on you to protect the full funding and existence of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This does fit in a system that, although not a top-down network, is allied, where you have a sharing of resources, of reporting. Often NPR helps to coordinate editing of projects or to bring things up from the ground so that there's an understanding that certain dynamics affect people in more than one just individual radio market. But also, as you say, the emergency warning construct. Now, opponents of public broadcasting will say, well, every time this comes up, people, throw this in our faces about the emergency warnings, and there are ways the state can fund that either through public radio stations or otherwise that don't require this enormous infrastructure and funding all the stuff that we don't like for this news for the coastal elites. That's what you're hearing from Republicans on the Hill. But you're not seeing them take the steps to do that at the moment. And you're also seeing them do this and that money will cut off this fall. And so stations have almost no time to make up for what would be, in some cases, extraordinary proportion of their budgets.
David, we really appreciate you spending part of your day with us, and we hope all of our days end better than I expect it will. Take care. We hope to see you soon.
You bet.
Thank you, David. We've been speaking with David Folkenflik. He's NPR's media correspondent, and we very much appreciate his taking the time. Coming up after the 1 o'clock news, 2 local farmers on peak produce season and maintaining fresh fruit access for everybody. And the debate, should you shut corn or not shut corn when you are in the produce season line? waiting to get in line. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
New Englanders are curious, informed, and engaged, and that's why Champion Circle members invest in GBH with annual gifts of $900 or more. It's just one way to make a big impact. Learn more at gbh.org/champion-circle.
Support for GBH comes from you. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. And Mass General Brigham, their leading heart and vascular specialists, are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, ahead on the third hour of BPR live from the Boston Public Library. 2 local farmers join us. We'll talk with Mike Monturi from Allendale Farms and Danielle Andrews from the Food Project on urban farming, connecting with communities and the impacts of federal funding cuts and ICE scrutiny. And yes, Marjorie, we will also ask them about why you should not shuck corn at the farmers market.
That's good, Jim. I'm Marjorie Egan. Today is National Hot Dog Day.
Thank goodness.
Otherwise known as Browdy Christmas. Let's be frank. Why is America so obsessed with hot dogs? Do you know we eat billions of them every year? And what variety is most worth getting obsessed over? Are you a Costco $1.50 fan, a Fenway Frank freak, or do you live for those dogs covered in everything, or maybe wrapped in bacon? All things meat tubes next on the third hour of BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is telling off members of his own base who are still demanding the Justice Department publicize what it's got on the late financier and convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein.
I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including in the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Many conspiracy theorists and conservative influencers are angry that Attorney General Pam Bondi says Epstein did not maintain a client list after she and other top Trump allies had suggested otherwise. Trump made the comments during a photo op with the Crown Prince of Bahrain. Now, amid market volatility and conflict over the direction of interest rates, President Trump now says he is not planning to do anything about Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Trump has been a vocal critic of Powell over the central bank's decision not to lower interest rates now, and has said Powell, whom Trump selected in his first term, should be fired. Russia has launched a massive attack on Ukrainian cities. NPR's Polina Litvinova reports from Kyiv at least 15 people were wounded in the overnight strikes across the country.
The Ukrainian military says Russia attacked cities across Ukraine, including President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown Kryvyi Rih in central Ukraine with a ballistic missile and 400 drones. The explosions caused massive power outages in Kryvyi Rih. Military officials also say industrial and civilian facilities were damaged in the central city of Vinnytsia and in the northeastern Kharkiv. Russia's barrage comes after President Trump announced Monday the U.S. would sell weapons to Ukraine and gave the Kremlin 50 days to make peace or face sanctions. Polina Litvinova, NPR News, Kyiv.
The Trump administration is holding back about $140 million allocated by Congress to help communities fight fentanyl and other drug overdoses. Sources inside the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention tell NPR key life-saving programs are being disrupted. Here's NPR's Brian Mann.
President Trump has made fighting fentanyl deaths a key part of his second term, as he did in his first term. But 4 CDC staff members, speaking on condition of anonymity because they fear retribution, told NPR roughly $140 million for the Overdose Data to Action program have been held back by the DOJ cost-cutting team and the Office of Management and Budget. All 4 said they fear delays will lead to the funding being cut or canceled altogether. These are lives at stake, said one CDC staffer. Trump administration officials haven't responded to NPR's request for comment.
That's NPR's Brian Mann reporting. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. As we just heard from BPR, as the U.S. Senate debates a rescission package to claw back more than $1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, U.S. Senator Ed Markey says he's still trying to convince Republican colleagues to vote no. But Markey says loyalty to President Trump and Trump's intense animus toward public broadcasting makes it tough to change minds.
Trump is trying to go after any part of the media that is objective and is able to present news and information in a way which is just factual in its nature. And that is not what Donald Trump wants.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting helps fund PBS, NPR, and member stations across the country, including us here at GBH. They've all warned of dire consequences if this rescission package is approved. Lawmakers on Beacon Hill pondering 2 bills before them that, if passed, would ban tobacco sales to people born after 2006. The Herald reports that the proposal went before a hearing of the Joint Committee on Public Health on Monday, and if enacted, it would be the first such statewide law in the country, although not the first implementation of the idea altogether. Residents of more than 12.5 Commonwealth communities already live under similar bans through local ordinances. Hazy, hot, and Henry today. High, low 90s. It is 91 degrees outside our studios here in Brighton. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from Subaru. The new Forester Hybrid offers symmetrical all-wheel drive and up to 581 miles per tank. Part of the new Forester Hybrid family of SUVs. More at Subaru.com/Forester Hybrid. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live. Thank you from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. It's peak summer produce season in New England. Actually, if you're watching on YouTube, you can tell it is. Lettuce, squash, basil, bok choy, something I never heard of before. We're going to hear about in a minute. Are piled high in farm stands, CSA boxes. Behind the scenes is an ecosystem too, Jim, of farmers and community organizations that make all of these wonderful foods accessible to people both in the city and the suburbs. Joining us now are two people entrenched in that network. Danielle Andrews is the Boston Farms Manager for the Food Project. It's great to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jim.
And Michael Montori is the farm manager at Allendale Farm in Boston, the last full-scale working farm in the city. And there's a very strong rumor that he's getting married this weekend at Allendale.
Oh,
is that true
wow.
or false?
That's true. Next weekend.
Next weekend at Allendale?
Yes.
So what's the deal? I mean, forget the farm for a minute. How's this going? The marriage thing. Who is this person?
She's right there.
Where is she? Oh, congratulations. That's great.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Are you going to get married by the pond?
Yep.
I told you my eldest daughter got married during the pandemic. 20 people. It was kind of small. But it was great at the pond. You're going to have the little white lights where are you going to go for the reception?
The pond, right in the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. It was very, good for you.
So we're out of
very
time.
Romantic.
Thank you both for coming.
Wonderful.
We appreciate it. So since we started, for people that don't know about Allendale Farms, fill us in. What is it?
Allendale is a working farm in Boston, just like you said, and that old slogan is something we've been trying to kick for quite some time, the last working farm in Boston, because there are so many other farms in Boston and in the surrounding areas that deserve some credit as well, whether they're freight farms or rooftop farms or in abandoned lots. They're popping up all over, and they're also producing food and helping to feed the community.
But you were the first, were you not?
I don't know about the first.
In Boston? No? Well, you're a humble guy. It's pretty obvious
You're
so far.
You're the Brookline-Boston line, right behind Faulkner Hospital over there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right there, so it's very close by.
About half the farm is in Boston and half is in Brookline.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Food Project.
Yeah,
The Food Project we're a youth development organization first and foremost. So I steward land in Dorchester, Roxbury. I manage one of 4 farms that the Food Project runs, but we do all of that work in partnership with teams who we hire and pay to work on our farms and run our farm stands and help us with food distribution and get engaged in policy and community work.
My kids, who never cared about anything like this, went to the farm school when they were little tiny things, and it really changed both of their lives and their relationship to gardening, food production, that sort of thing. Why the focus on kids?
So the focus is on teenagers. So all of our youth are 14 to 18 who work with us. And I think all of us really want valuable food. And I think growing food and getting food out to your neighbors is something that is really easy for people to understand the deep value behind. And our teens really identify with that. And that's why they were willing to harvest these tomatoes in 100 yesterday so I could bring them here to you.
That's fabulous. What is that light green thing in that beautiful basket that I never heard of before?
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm so glad you asked me about the squash. So I brought a bunch of vegetables that we harvested this morning and yesterday, and these ones in particular are pretty special ones. So the neighborhood our farm that I manage is just down the street. It's in the Dudley neighborhood, which is tucked between Nubian Square and Upham's Corner. There are a lot of Cape Verdeans there, so a lot of who I'm growing for are Cape Verdeans. And this is one of the most popular squashes. And so I knew it before I started working there as Kusa, or Magda is the variety. But in Portuguese, it's called, I'm going to butcher it, even though I've been doing it the best, bolum bolum.
Very good. That sounded good to me.
Thanks.
And Michael, you mentioned how Allendale was just one of many urban farms, and that's what you were talking about too, obviously, in Nubian Square. It's an urban farm too. But is this something new that we just haven't been paying enough attention to? I mean, or have they always been around, or what's the story?
I think they've been around for a while. There's definitely more popping up, and I know the city's doing a lot to promote that and to facilitate it. There's a new program, relatively new program called Grow Boston under the city's housing authority.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is providing some funding and some grants and some extension help to kind of bolster this effort in the community.
I read one of these stories that talked about one community. They had to get all the lead because there had been fires in the neighborhood, and, it left lead in the soil, so that entailed some digging all that up.
Some serious
And
remediation,
I mean, that's going to be an issue too, at least in certain places that are heavily trafficked, I would think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a project that we work on extensively. So when the food project was first farming in Lincoln and then came in to set up the farms in Dorchester, Roxbury, and realized that lead was an issue. And so we remediated the farms that we were setting up. So it's 2 acres of land that's just down the street. And also realized that a lot of people in the community were growing in soil that was contaminated with lead, and started working. We originally got an EPA grant, a 3-year grant, and started working with a Professor Dan Brabander out of Wellesley University, who's been a tremendous support to us for the last 20 years. And experimented with phytoremediation, found it too slow, and so really what we do for community members who want to grow food is that we install raised bed gardens in their yards, and they can grow food.
What gardens?
Raised bed gardens.
Oh, raised bed, okay. Because how would you even know? I mean, unless you're a professional, you just go out and dig a hole and hope for the best. I mean, how would you know what's in your soil?
You wouldn't, so you can get it tested, and we offer free testing. We do a spring seedling sale every year, and people can bring soil samples, and Dan will test it for them there so they can find out. But you can also mail it to UMass Soil Extension Services to find out. We are also we're going to host an evening in August, which I can't remember the date of, but I will tell you, around lead in soils and health and growing food in healthy soils, and people can bring their samples there and get them tested.
That's the voice of Danielle Andrews from the Food Project. She is joined by Michael Montori from Allendale Farm in Boston. You know, one of the great things the Trump administration has contributed, I think, in its first 6 months, most of us didn't know that poor people don't need to eat, which is really, I think, very eye-opening kind of thing. So we know what's happening to SNAP benefits. We know that the Department of Agriculture has cut, I think, $1 billion plus from this nationwide program that allows schools to buy healthy food from organizations like yours. Do either of those things affect what you do for a living over at the Food Project?
For us, we've been fortunate to not be directly hit by some of the cuts. I mean, there's been the stories are pretty horrendous, which I'm sure you're familiar with, like small-scale farmers who were counting on money and started projects, and then it was cut, which is terrible. For us, mostly we donate a lot of food, but we also sell food, and a lot of our customers use SNAP benefits, and they rely on the Healthy Incentives Program. So it's sort of this double hit of people being removed from the SNAP lines. But if they have SNAP, the HIP was, as I know you have spoken about, was cut back last year to $20. Mm-hmm. It used to be up to $80 depending on family size. We're really pleased that it's back to $40 at least for this year, and we're seeing a big increase in the use of HIP benefits in July versus June.
Before we find out from Michael if there's any impact from those policies at Allendale, there is, from what I understand, is there not an effort by the state in terms of this healthy incentives program thing that you talked about a minute ago? Are they trying to fill in where the federal government is stepping out, or do I misunderstand that? Are they involved?
Well, they fund the Healthy Incentives Program, so that's a state program.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so how about SNAP and these Department of Agriculture cuts at your operation? Do you feel them or you don't?
We definitely do, and we've been brainstorming ways that we can kind of go around that and help community members who are facing food insecurity. We accept SNAP and EBT at the farm for our vegetables, and also a lot of people don't know, but you can use those for plants as well, edible plants. So you can buy a 6-pack of tomato seedlings, or you can buy a seed packet in our garden center and use your SNAP and EBT that way, as long as it's growing in something edible. So,
and it's HIP eligible as well.
Yeah.
So when you said you're trying to do workarounds, for lack of whatever expression you use, what are you trying to do to protect those food insecure people as best you can?
Yeah, one of the big avenues in which we move our food is through our CSA program. And we started this new program called community funded shares. So when you purchase your CSA share, you can donate a little extra money every dollar really counts. So some people will donate $5 or $20, $100, and we take all that money and then fund CSA shares for folks who...
Explain the CSA shares that people may not know.
Yeah, a CSA share stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So in the beginning of the year, you sign on and pay in the winter when the vegetables and the revenue really isn't flowing in. And that helps us pay our staff, buy seeds and supplies for the year. And what you're purchasing is basically a subscription to, we offer either 20 or 10-week shares. So for 20 weeks during the summer, right now we're on week 5. So for 15 more weeks, folks every week come to the farm and pick up a share of what's in season.
Which is pretty neat. Which is pretty neat. You know, Jim was mentioning some of the changes in the new Trump administration. You're a small farm, so it may not be that big of a thing for you, but a lot of bigger farms have really been struggling because their workers, a lot of them are they came across the border, and they're getting snatched by ICE. Is that something you encounter, or are you guys too small for that?
We don't encounter that, but it's definitely concerning and alarming. I mean, for everyone eats food, and everyone should be concerned with that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the stereotypical myths that I think exists is a lot of people say, well, you know, it's only wealthy, effete people who really want like healthy kinds of fruits and vegetables, and we're all trying to force it on other people, and that sort of thing. You're nodding, so I assume you hear it. So is it myth or is it reality?
It's such a myth. And so one thing that came out of the pandemic was that there suddenly was some support for local farms and getting local produce to poor communities in particular. And I was just struck by the extent to which people would go to try to figure out how to access coupons that they could then use at farmers markets, and the lines and the time that people would spend waiting to purchase local fresh vegetables. Because I think there is I've worked in this field for 20 years, and particularly 20 years ago, there was always we have to figure out how to increase demand, particularly around poorer communities that we're not seeing at farmers markets. And I've always there is so much demand, is people have such a hard time paying their bills, and they have to make really difficult decisions about how to spend that money. And so to me, when there were these opportunities and seeing the amount of time people would spend in lines to get coupons in order to go to farmers markets and buy fresh vegetables and be excited about what they're seeing and being able to access that, to me was like the proof we needed.
You know, Daniel, could you do me a favor? In light of the fact, Marjorie and I say all the time, this is one of the most depressing shows on radio. Most of the time, all we're talking is doom and disaster. Yeah. As you're talking, not only do these, I'm sure, taste good, they look beautiful.
Yeah, we should.
Could you hold up?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you don't have to go through every item.
No.
Go through a few things and hold them up, and the camera will grab
and I think we were going to talk a little bit about what is in season, and so.
Do that then.
Yeah. So I was just going to talk a little bit. So this is pretty early. These are tomatoes and peppers from our greenhouse. So we do have this 10,000 square foot greenhouse, which actually is also, I should say, is a community-owned greenhouse. I'm really lucky to work in a neighborhood where people are really passionate about agriculture and knew how important it was. So there's a really interesting backstory behind how this community has organized to make sure that we have working farms in Dorchester, Roxbury.
Well, what's the interesting story behind how they've organized?
Well, so we're here in this neighborhood because of the work that the community and the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative have done to ensure that there are working farms in that neighborhood, and that had to do with residents for whom agriculture was really culturally important then, which was in the early 90s when they were re-envisioning their neighborhood, and continues to be that way. So our farms are on a community land trust. They're owned by the neighborhood. We are there we respond to the neighborhood. You know, we could get kicked off and somebody else could be farming their land, so we work hard to make sure we're growing what they want to see. So these are greenhouse cucumbers, but also
Is that garlic?
This is garlic. So one of the things that we sell a lot of at our farmers markets, and all farmers do, is local garlic. I hope everybody's going out to their farmers markets to get garlic, because it's just coming out of the ground right now. It's incredible. I bet you have beautiful garlic.
Yep. In our CSA share this week, we have tons of garlic.
Nice. And fresh onions are coming out.
Oh, look at those.
And
wow.
These are these beautiful beets that came from our Lincoln farm that they harvested yesterday. That's beet season, guys. juice.
You know,
Okay.
you go ahead.
I was going to say, so Michael, besides the vegetables, there are animals up there at Allendale Farm, and I heard you kind of had a sad week. You had a funeral this week up there for a steer.
April.
It was in April. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it just happened. So you've kind of gotten over it by now.
No,
You're not so
maybe
upset.
not.
Maybe not. Tell us about this.
Willard.
Yeah, Willard.
Yep.
He had bagpipes and everything.
Yeah, he had a proper Scottish send-off. So we have Scottish Highland steer that have been at the farm for 17 years, and they're on all of our T-shirts and hats and the side of the trucks and kind of the face of the farm. And this in April, one of them passed away.
Willard.
So Curtis is still there, and he loves all the extra attention and folks visiting and scratching his head and saying hi.
How's he doing without his buddy?
He's thriving.
That's
what
doing
Michael
good.
just said.
I know, but I mean, you lose somebody, you're somebody.
Maybe he didn't like Willard. But you know what? This is what I was fascinated by. Okay, these steers are huge, right? They say 1,000 pounds plus.
Yeah, probably 1,200.
And that what happened to Willard is, at some point when you get really old as a steer, your bones won't hold you up, and you look at the pictures of him, these skinny little legs and this huge body, you're not surprised the bones can't hold him up anymore, which wonders why Mother Nature didn't make them with bigger
By the way, it's
legs.
happening to me as we speak. Same exact thing. I meant to tell you.
Okay. So that's what happened. Willard just kind of couldn't stand up anymore?
He passed one night in his old age. We're not sure exactly what happened, but and Curtis is getting all sorts of arthritis medicine to help his old bones as well. And
don't you ever wonder about those? They should have bigger legs.
Yeah.
If you weigh 1,000 pounds, your legs shouldn't be like an inch and a half.
Okay, good. You know what I'm thinking? When you said farmers market a minute ago, I don't even know if there's a question attached to this. The woman who runs Willie Nelson's Farm Aid is a good friend of both of ours. Carol Mugar is her name. And I was at Farm Aid a couple of years ago, and the day before Farm Aid every year, which is on a Saturday, the board members, Mellencamp, Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and Dave Matthews hold a press conference. And then at the concert, Neil Young gave a lecture to all in attendance about how ashamed people should be who ever buy something like this except from a farmer's market, except from a small farmer like you guys in your neighborhood. It was one of the most beautiful, powerful, while fierce things at the same time. Do people get it, how important it is to...
You're out here every Tuesday and Friday.
That's right, down right in the street. Do people get how important it is to support this rather than going to just
some
Star
people
Market
do,
or something?
for sure, but not enough. And everything is more important than ever right now, right? But farmers it's a tough time. It's a really tough time. Besides the climate change, the cost of labor, everything, all the costs going up, all the cuts to federal programming, we need the support of customers. We'll be at Ashmont on Friday.
What are your websites? We're not done yet, but what are your websites if people want to check you guys out?
www.thefoodproject.org.
And how about you?
AllendaleFarm.com.
Okay, this is what I really wanted to talk about. We have a mutual friend, Jessica, and I said...
Didn't she used to work there?
Yeah, she did something up at Allendale Farm.
Okay,
I'm not sure what she did. She was there an awful lot. I know that. I assume she was working there. Anyway, she told me, I did not realize, that there's a major controversy in the farm stand world about people peeling off the top of the corn to see if they like it, because for several reasons, bees come, and because they'll just peel off a little bit.
Tries it out too, doesn't it?
They'll peel off like an inch, and then they'll put it back. So what is the correct etiquette when you are buying fresh corn up at Allendale Farm?
He's too nice. This isn't the right guy to ask. He's a nice guy.
To check.
You think it's okay to check?
I think it's okay to check. We don't like when people take off all the husks and leave them there.
So like an inch or two of husk is okay with you? Wouldn't be
just to check.
That's okay?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Do you agree with that, Danielle, or what?
Well, I will say I was really glad when the city of Boston started funding a compost pickups sites at farmers markets, which we are one, because now at least we have somewhere that people can put their corn husks, because they were constantly trying to give it to me, which I was like, I don't want those corn husks.
They take off the whole thing? I think that's a little much.
That's what they're
Wouldn't
both
you
saying.
say? I think there should be an inch or two limit. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I think that's perfect. And Marjorie, if that's what you like, that's why I like. How'd you get in the farm business?
I kind of stumbled into it.
How?
A family friend of mine of ours owned a farm, and it was the only place that I could get a job when I was 14 or 15, and I started, and I just fell in love, and I've been doing it ever since.
What'd you fall in love with?
Everything's different every day. It's like problem solving and getting to be outside, and this tangible results of your work and your labor is really satisfying. And
how about you, Danielle? How'd you get started?
Excuse me for a second. Michael mentioned, rooftop farms. And
we were at Fenway the other night.
At Fenway Park. They have an incredible farm up there on the roof.
We walked right by.
Vegetables and flowers, and it's really something. I guess they're happening. These rooftop farms.
That's Linda Henry.
I worked 4 summers in a box factory when I was paying for university.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I'm like, I want to be outside for a summer before I figure out what I'm going to do next. And
Is that really what happened?
That's really what happened.
All of a sudden, what grabbed you? Because you've been smiling almost every vegetable you describe. You have this look on your face that's pretty great. What grabbed you?
Well, I love the vegetables. I love the food. Everything Mike said resonated with me, and I mean something that's just I feel so lucky about is that I'm in this immediate neighborhood, so I get to share what I love every day with lots of people. Our youth, we have lots of volunteers. Everyone's coming through the farm.
And what are those? And most of those teenagers, as you described, in large numbers, what do they do when they leave you? Is there a continuing connection to either you or what they learn here?
There is work to keep them connected to us, and some of them do, and some of them don't. But also, yesterday a youth came by, a former youth. He was probably 32.
He's post-youth, yes.
Yes. And he was coming up the farm, and he's like, I heard that voice and had to come say hello. And I'm looking at this man, and I'm like, I kind of recognize you. He's like a Zeke, and he's long braids, used to have short hair. And that's the best too. And like when full grown-ups come back and to give me a hug and tell me how much they miss the farm.
Well, do they also spread the word? I assume that's part of the thing, to be emissaries, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But people kind of end up in all different fields. It's awesome. We have young people who have gone on to go into agriculture. That's the best. And I think there's so much to learn on farms, and people take it with them in many different ways.
Michael, when's the best time to buy corn?
I think we have the first corn of the season in the farm stand today.
Whoa. So we're okay even in July. We don't have to wait till August. It's not necessarily.
It will get sweeter, but
it will get sweeter. Okay.
But you've been waiting for it, right?
I have been waiting for it. Do you do the yellow and white kernels, or just what do you think?
We don't actually grow corn at Allendale.
You don't. But what would you suggest for those of us who are into the corn situation?
I like the bicolor.
I like the bicolor, I too. Makes it more exciting, Jim.
Now, before you both go, we want your opinion of something. We're talking to you about healthy food and how important it is to support farmers markets, local farmers. We're going to go from discussing healthy food, like this beautiful stuff, to discussing the wonders of the hot dog on the National Hot Dog Day.
National Hot Dog Day.
Do you think we're hypocrites? Or you can be honest about this. Are we hypocrites? You ever eat a hot dog?
I eat a veggie dog.
I knew that. Okay.
Also covered
How
in
about
sauerkraut.
you? When was the last time you had a hot dog?
Last week.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, all right.
He's a man. He's versatile.
Love this
Very
guy.
versatile.
All about balance.
Yeah, it's all
Pigs
about
and
balance.
blankets at the wedding, or no? Yeah, pigs and blankets at the wedding?
Maybe
okay,
after.
fine. Thumbs up. Okay. We're really glad to have both of you here. Thanks so much for your time. Good luck with your work.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Keep at it.
Congratulations. I hope you have a beautiful day. Is it Saturday?
Yes.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for nice weather for you on Saturday.
Check out both of their farms, too. Go to their websites. Check it out.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much for
Good to
coming
see you
in.
both.
Thanks for having us.
We've been speaking with Michael Montori, the farm manager at Allendale Farm in the Brookline-Boston line, right behind the Faulkner Hospital, and Danielle Andrews, the Boston Farms manager for the Food Project. Thank you both so much for coming in. Coming up after this quick
Can
break.
I have a cucumber? Oh, we'll spread it. We'll share with it. Whoa, you're the best. Thank you. She just said her mic's off. She's going to leave all this beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And after Marjorie and I take what we want, we'll consider sharing it with some of the rest of you.
There's going to be much left, Jim, after you take
can
what
leave there.
you
It's
want.
beautiful. Leave it right there so people can see it.
Okay, thank you very much for coming in.
Both.
Thank you very much. Coming up after this quick break, as Jim said, we are opening the lines to get your thoughts on National Hot Dog Day, about hot dogs and sausages and bratwurst and the like. Because we are celebrating today. Jim and I ate a wonderful hot dog earlier today from the Lennox Hotel.
We did.
It was absolutely delicious, but it will take 36 minutes off your life. Is it 36 minutes? I think
36,
so. Yeah. Okay. Jim wanted to talk about hot dogs, so that's what we're doing. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 99.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Grunroth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, the head of the T is apologizing to riders who got stuck under Boston Harbor yesterday. Massachusetts is experiencing the most humid summer on record. We'll go over what you can do to minimize the health risks. And at 80, Bob Becker became the oldest person to complete the grueling Badwater 135 ultramarathon. That and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Boston Children's Museum, featuring 100 Acre Wood, a Winnie the Pooh experience. Visitors can sort honey and acorns with Pooh Bear and Piglet, bounce with Roo and Tigger, or read one of Owl's favorite books. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org. And MIT Sloan Executive Education. You can equip yourself with the skills to lead in a rapidly changing world. Courses cover AI, leadership, and data-driven strategy. More at executive.mit.edu.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Despite my usual, how should I put this, sort of sour demeanor, I am less grumpy today than usual because, as we've discussed ad nauseum, it is National Hot Dog Day, and you know what that means.
It makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Exactly. That was me speaking there. That's right. I have been disassociating throughout the rest of the show just to get to this moment. The lines are open, and I've come alive. The hot dog and you. 877-301-8970. It's summer. It's baseball season. It's cookout season. How many hot dogs do you estimate make their way through your digestive tract between the months of June to September? Do you even care about how bad they are for you? Plus, a few debates to be had. Is the hot dog a sandwich? Is an Italian sausage a hot dog? What toppings, or as Marjorie would call them, fixins, belong or don't belong on your beef log? It's all on the table. The hot dog and you, 877-301-8970.
Did you read the statistic? It says Americans buy 9 billion hot dogs per year, but they also get them consumed to other people's houses. We consume 20 billion hot dogs, it's estimated a year. That's a lot of hot dogs.
You know how much that is?
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about losing 36 minutes off their life, I guess, Jim.
That is one a week for the average American. That means every man, woman, and child.
Yeah.
And in light of the fact, for example, Danielle eats veggie hot dogs, so she doesn't count. So the likelihood is good that those who do eat hot dogs probably eat on average 2 a week. Those Americans who eat. I didn't even think you'd eat that hot dog. You're not a hot dog kind of person.
No, I'm not. I haven't had a hot dog
What'd
in a
you think
long
of that
time.
hot dog?
Well, it sits in your stomach. It does sit in your stomach.
Yeah, it's great. Exactly. That was my point. So here is a couple of years ago, actually in 2024, we had this fabulous comedian and author, Jamie Loftus, on.
Oh, God.
She wrote a book called Raw Dog. And Marjorie, I believe, asked her about what you would ask her about, which is the Wienermobile, like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. And here is what Jamie Loftus had to say. It's rather shocking.
It's like a gigantic hot dog shaped car. It looks like an Oscar Mayer Wiener. It's the red with the yellow strap. It's huge. It has 6 seats inside.
Wow.
One of which is for sex. In the back left seat, we call that the meat seat. And that's where the magic happens.
Okay.
Exactly. Let me repeat. One of which is for sex, the seats. In the back left seat, we call that the, quote, meat seat, and that's where the magic happens.
She talked about how these college kids would get jobs for the summer working in the Wienermobile, and naturally what a college kid is doing when they stop in the Wienermobile there over in a rest stop, doing whatever in the meat seat there. So that was pretty, actually it's a great book. It's a very, very clever book about hot dogs. I don't know if she's the one or somebody else explains where the name hot dog came from. They talk about how this cartoonist who observed a vendor selling hot dachshund sausages during a baseball game at New York City's Polo Grounds. But the cartoonist saw this happen, but he didn't know how to spell dachshund, so he instead talked about getting hot dogs. He didn't have.
So do you believe that or not?
I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good story. I don't know. And it's more popular in the South than in the Northeast.
I didn't know that.
Are. Yeah, that's what.
Okay, so Chris from Rossi texts. I'll answer all your questions. Hebrew Nationals are the best, especially the jumbos. Potato roll buns is my go-to. A hot dog is a sandwich, whether in a bun, bagel, or any other starch. If eaten plain, it's called a tube steak. Also, if it's true that each dog takes 30 minutes, actually 36, off your life, I would have been dead by 20. I'm 877-301-8971. Every day, says Chris from Rossi, is National Hot Dog Day in my house. By the way,
that was great.
Let me just say, the bun is critical. Remember we were discussing sandwiches a week or so ago? I said the bread is the key. We've both tasted the buttered brioche roll on flour in Boston Common with their hot dog is as good as it gets. 877-301-8970. You know what Jamie told us this morning? Were you aware? This is like my dream job. You said that it was my dream job. There's something called the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council.
That's right.
Should I be head of that, or should I be head of that?
You know, when we wind things up here at Boston Public Radio, I think that would be a nice segue for you, Jim. The National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. That would be very nice. I get to Jim for Christmas every year the sausage of the month or the salami of the month.
Or the bacon of the month.
I don't think I've ever gotten the hot dog of the month.
Well, there is not a hot dog of the month.
Mix it up a little bit this year.
You haven't got me sausage of the month, though.
And by the way, all these places are having these great deals, like Omaha Steaks. They have these great deals today because it's National Hot Dog Day. Shake Shack. There's one of those in Chestnut Hill. I bet there are in other places
one in Harvard
too.
Square.
Harvard Square. Well, Shake Shack for National Hot Dog Day and its new Dog Days menu, 2 hot dogs for $8 for a limited time.
And if you want a huge hot dog for $1.50 with a huge soda with it, you go to Costco. 877-301-8970. We want to know about your relationship with the hot dog. It is National Hot Dog Day. Ken Casey said, I was rather disappointed. The front man for the Dropkick Murphys, he said since he didn't know about it, he's only going to have one. Are you only going to have one today? Was that it for you?
I think I'm fine.
Oh, I'm going to have a pack.
I'm fine.
Let's go to Erin. Erin in Boston, you are first on National Hot Dog Day. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi.
Jim, we are kindred spirits. I am keeping a journal of every hot dog I eat in 2025.
Is that true, or you made that up to be funny?
It is 100% true. I'm using it as a journal to track all the things that I do this year. But
how many have you had?
Hot dogs.
How many have you
had? 51, about to be 52.
Wow. You are serious.
So we've had
Go
ahead. You go ahead.
My friends are taking bets on how many. And have done some buy-ins to see who can get closest.
So, Erin, what is it about the hot dog that has special appeal to you?
Everywhere you go, they do it differently. So if you're traveling, if you're in a new city, if you're in a new town, if you're in a different country, they all have their own style of hot dog. It unites the world, basically.
That's beautiful. That sounds like Rick Steves, by the way. That is a beautiful spirit. And by the way, Erin, in the book, we're sort of promoting this Raw Dog, the great book by Jamie Loftus. She talks about exactly that. Oh, you did? She talks about different, of course you did, different hot dog styles and stuff you put on them in different parts of the country. Erin, that was a great start. Call us at the end of the year and tell us, what's your goal, by the way? How many you hope to have by the end of the year?
I don't have a goal, but I know that some of my friends have put in some pretty lofty bets. I think I'll break 100, though.
Congratulations. That's so great. I hope everybody who knows you is proud. Erin, thank you very much for your call.
Okay,
we appreciate it.
Here's Tom from Manchester, New Hampshire. Makes your mouth water. Best hot dog in the world is in York, Maine, Route 1, roadside stand called Flo's. Get the Flo Special. Comes with a dark brown relish, mayonnaise, and celery, salt, 2 of those, a bag of chips, and a Moxie soda. Best lunch in the world.
Can I tell you the key to the hot dog since you haven't asked me? The key is the casing.
Casing.
And the goal is the casing should be so tight that when you either cook it, it explodes, little things, or when you bite into it, it explodes in your mouth. How great is that?
It sounds pretty good.
Thank you.
But you know something that's interesting? And I think, Mary from Medway says her favorite recipe is take the cheapest hot dog, slice in half, simmer in baked beans. The longer the simmer, the better they are. And that's, some people say, I would never want to do that. But you ever notice if you go to a party or you go to some event where they've got pigs and blankets, which is the first thing that goes?
Pigs and blankets.
Pigs and blankets. Jessica, I mentioned Jessica before.
Yeah.
She makes hundreds of those when I have my Christmas thing. All gone.
Do you remember when we had a BPR Christmas party about 10 years ago? A particular chef in town closed one of her smaller restaurants for us and made us about 300 pigs and blankets for this day. You don't remember this? Tiffany Faison at Fool's Errand.
Oh, that's right. Oh, her little cocktail place
Fool's
down
Errand.
there.
Was that one of the greatest things ever?
Yes. And we ate them all.
We ate them all.
It's like addictive.
Thank you. That's exactly what I said.
That's how people sound eating the hot dogs, the pigs and blankets.
Peter
absolutely.
Hi,
Peter.
You're next. Hi.
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 Just a quick, I'll wait for summertime to grill those hot dogs outside because I like to charge You can put anything on a hot dog. Mustard, pickle relish. I do not like ketchup on hot dogs.
Neither do I.
Neither do I.
I don't hate ketchup, but just that sweet and spicy altogether doesn't go for me. So put anything on my hot dog, don't put ketchup.
That is a beautiful and strong opinion, and thank you for sharing that with us. Now, Jamie,
Did you see this? Yeah, the
this
do's and
is
don'ts.
Total crap.
You think
This
so?
is the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council has do's and don'ts. Listen to this don't. Put hot dog toppings between the hot dog and the bun, meaning don't. It says always dress the dog, not the bun. Condiments should be I don't care what the order is. That is ridiculous. If you have all the condiments or fixins, as you call them, on top of the dog, then they fall all over the place. You pick up the dog, you shove the stuff underneath the dog, and then you plop the dog back into the bun, and then you've got like a combination experience. Would you not agree with that?
Well, I think that's the question for the listeners, Jim. Do you want your condiments stuffed under the bun, under the dog?
Stuffed under the dog.
Or over the dog?
Exactly.
Ours were over the dog, and I thought it was quite fine over the dog. Did you think it was a problem that the condiments
I
were
would
over
have
the dog?
preferred it under the dog. Can I also say something? Because I am somebody who, rarely changes my opinion about it. Some people say it's stubborn. If you were to say to me before Peter, our friend from the Lennox, came over and brought us a hot dog.
Yes, I know. That was great of
I would
him.
have said, I hope he doesn't put relish on it. You know why? Because I don't like relish on a hot dog. You know what I say now? I may have been wrong.
There was relish on there.
It was really delicious.
Relish on there. I like chili and onions.
Yeah, chili is a really good thing. Oh, raw. You're talking raw onions,
Yes.
I hope. Yeah.
Kara from Scituate, thank you for calling.
Hi, Kara. Kara.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Hello.
As a child, my dad would make us hot dogs and then encourage us to play Frodo's Bloody Finger. And he would give us hot dogs plain, no bun, and then we'd take a bite out and put ketchup on it, and then we would act out the infamous Gollum Frodo ring scene from The Return of the King.
Oh, God.
And now I'm a vegetarian because it traumatized me.
That's
pretty
one.
good. That's
That
pretty
is a
good,
really
Kara.
good one. Thank you, Kara. By the way, speaking of vegetarian, here is Zoe, our coworker, who doesn't eat meat. I generally avoid meat replacements as a non-meat eater, but as a rule, the more processed the original meat is, I think the better the replacement is. Tofu pups are great. Now, let me ask you, be honest. I hope Zoe doesn't take this in the wrong way. Would you eat a tofu pup on National Hot? It's not National Tofu Pup Day. It is National Hot Dog
It is
Day.
no national. Can you imagine over there on 4th of July when they do the eating contest?
Let's have a tofu pup.
If those guys are over there, Crazy Legs County, and the rest of them.
Well,
were
he was doing the reason. Exactly. Zoe just said that. He got suspended last year from Nathan's because he was working for a plant-based hot dog company.
That's right.
Exactly.
I don't think it works when you're doing
Zoe
an
thinks it
eating
works.
contest. No, an eating contest person. You're supposed to be doing the hot dogs, but then they always put the bun in water.
Yeah.
They dip it in water so it goes down. How many hot dogs did he eat? Like 10
Only
minutes?
70 and a half this year.
Oh, my God. Richie from Brookline. What do you think, Richie?
Hello, Richie.
Hey, guys. Frequent caller.
Thank you.
So I have my team leader, my real estate team, is a fellow hot dog enthusiast, and we were talking about it one day, and he says, "Oh, you don't know about my product line that I invented?" And I thought he was, just blowing smoke, but he actually has a line of Newton, Massachusetts designed hot dogs called Savage Wiener.
Wow, that's serious.
SavageWiener.com. You can buy them online. There are a few local markets in the area that carry them, and they're absolutely amazing.
Well, wait a second. I just typed in SavageWiener.com. I got nothing. It's SavageWiener.com?
WIENER.
Oops,
Yep,
I put the
Savage
E
Wiener.
before the I. That was my mistake. I did. I'm really
Did you find it,
embarrassed.
Jim?
Great, and he's got the regular size, and he's got the big half-pound knockwurst size.
Oh, I love knockwurst.
They're so good, Jim. You will freak out.
I'm
They're
doing
fantastic.
it. I'm checking out Richie. Thanks. By the way, if anybody else wants to promote their favorite brand or whatever of hot dog, we're willing to do that today.
See what their website boasts there? Did you
What?
see that? The finest wiener experience of your life.
Okay, I don't know if I would have read that.
Now,
but
listen
go
to
ahead.
this. Carl in Seattle says that Seattle is known for Seattle dogs. The combo is a grilled bun with cream cheese, add sriracha.
Oh, that's horrible.
Then a regular dog or brat, plus a thin layer of pulled pork on top. What do
Can I
you
tell you
think?
something? I think not. Cream cheese is ridiculous.
People used to make cream cheese and bologna for hors d'oeuvres when I was a kid.
Really?
Yes.
Can I tell you something? You really nailed it, and I'm really shocked.
I did?
Chili and raw onion is really the perfect.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
And Dijon mustard.
Dijon mustard
You have to
is
have
very
mustard
good.
on the hot dog,
yeah,
too,
I prefer the Dijon over the Gouldens. That would be mine. Yeah,
yes,
well,
I just said Dijon. Did I not? Grey Poupon.
Grey Poupon.
Do you have Grey Poupon?
I have Grey Poupon.
Speaking of that, do you want to
Only Grey
hear,
Poupon.
what's that guy's name who pronounces things for us? We have him, do we not? Here's Julian Michel pronouncing the word of the hour. Here it is.
Hot dog.
I don't think so. Say it again.
Hot dog.
It's not hot dog.
Yeah.
Hot dog. It's hot dog.
I don't think he makes it appetizing.
I don't think he knows about hot dogs.
I don't think so either. I don't. Kristen and Acton, what do you think, Kristen?
Savage Wiener search. You know what you get? Carlos Danger. Do people remember who Carlos Danger was?
Congressman Wiener.
Congressman Wiener.
He unfortunately sent out pictures of himself inappropriately
and his literally
to women, and he got in a lot of trouble. But
Carlos Danger.
but his former wife, Uma, what was her last name?
Abedin.
Abedin.
She just married Soros'
She's got
kid.
married the son of one of the richest men in the world. So
Didn't he
she
run
made
for,
her okay.
Did Wiener not just run for city council in New York?
I think so.
And he lost.
Yeah, and
he ran for something.
If you want to entertain yourself sometime, there was a fabulous documentary done on him.
One of the best. We had the director on. It was great.
And it talked about when he was in the midst of this thing with him sending out pictures of himself in his underpants or naked, and it was fantastic because she was still married to him, and she was age to Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry.
The incredible thing is, he was a very talented politician, but he had a problem, obviously, and then he had to resign.
And by the way, after he had his first problem, you learn in the film, if you didn't know before, he ran for mayor. He was leading until he had the same problem the second time, and that did him in.
He could not stop.
Now, Mitch in New Bedford says, fun fact, bologna is just a giant hot dog sliced thin. Do you subscribe to that notion?
One of these stories said that a hot dog is pork, beef, chicken, or turkey.
Well, a lot of crap in there, too.
Yeah.
A lot of crap.
And spices.
Spices.
So I don't know.
Is
bologna made from pork? And
bologna, by the way, is really good for you. By the way, it's very healthy. Kristen in Acton, you're next on BPR. We're talking about hot dogs on National Hot Dog Day. Hi.
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 Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I love hot dogs.
Okay.
But I'm shamed.
Why?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, shamed.
Yeah, I'm shamed. I play golf a lot, and I like to get a hot dog afterwards, and everybody says, but how? They're so unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, you know what I would say to those people? A bunch of a-holes. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Kristen, if you enjoy a hot dog, be bold, follow your convictions, and enjoy the hot dog.
Okay.
And screw them. Thank you for your call, Kristen.
Peter from Mystic, Connecticut just texted, and he said he's 65 years old. He grew up on Twinkies and Tang and survived this long. Says, Peter, I fear no hot dog.
Well, he's incredible.
He's a courageous man.
Why don't you explain what Tang is to people who don't know?
It's some like fake orange juice.
What it was we were kids, theoretically astronauts did this. It may have been true. It was powdered orange juice to which you added water.
Oh, it was disgusting.
It was the most disgusting crap in the world. It was really incredible.
Let's go to Katie.
By the way, Patty in Wenham said, I Googled Savage Wiener, got an accounting firm. So,
Make it stop.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Accounting firm.
Katie in Situate, hi.
Hey guys, it's your favorite aggressive cleaner.
Oh, hey, Katie.
How are you?
It was a great show, and because of you guys, I was walking into the grocery store and I changed the dinner plans, and there's Soggies on the menu tonight, which is Rhode Island's thick casing special hot dog.
Now, Katie, did you tell us a few years ago about Soggies, and I said I had never heard of them? Is that was that you?
Probably.
Okay, and I went to the store. You or somebody told me that they were at Market Basket or something, and is there any place other than Rhode Island you can get them?
You know what? I think it's Dave's Market, which is a great local grocery store in Rhode Island. There's a lot of them around.
Okay.
I don't think they sell them at Market Basket, but because of you, Jim, I've become obsessed with Market Basket.
I'm so glad to hear it. And I'm going to try out a Soggy and see if I can be similarly obsessed. Katie, it's good to hear from you. Another texter also searched Savage Wiener at work, and the texter says, now I'm in HR. Thanks, Jim.
Listen to Michelle in Medfield. Jim is wrong. The toppings go on top of the hot dog, not under. That is why they're called toppings. That was a good one, Michelle.
Well, you didn't voice an opinion. As usual, you were not willing to confront the issue. Do you put them under or do you put them on top?
Are they toppings or bottomings?
Bottomings. I would say, no, I mean, in all seriousness, you put them on top and they're spilling over on everything.
Okay.
You put them under on the bottom and they're neater and they sort of also, they seep a little bit into the bun. So it's a sort of a multiple pleasure, despite what that Michelle said from Medfield.
Okay, well, apparently, according to Ian and Lowell, you are both right and wrong. You're right that it's all about the feeling of a hot wiener bursting in your mouth.
Bursting.
However, in all honesty, well, he says the casing is key, and you agree to that.
100%.
But he also says, however, Jim, Seattle dogs are underrated. Cream cheese and caramelized onions is
Caramelized
the way
onion I could
to go.
Would you eat cream cheese on a hot dog?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I would definitely eat caramelized onions on a hot dog.
Wow.
Yeah, I love caramelized onions.
Okay, Elliot and Boston.
You can make those really easily. You know, I make great caramelized onions.
Yeah, it's easy. Even I can make
You just stick them in
can make that? I don't think
just
you
put
can
them.
make
You just put them in the oven for like 45
You
minutes
can't
to make it caramelized. Yes, I can.
You know how to turn the oven on?
Ha 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 ha.
Okay, let's go to Elliot in Boston. You're next. It's National Hot Dog Day, and we're celebrating to the skies here. Hi, Elliot. Elliot. Now, Elliot, had he not hung up, he was calling, he told our colleague, was discussing the best cooking method, and he says grilling. And I'm going to say something really controversial here, so I hope people are going to be able to deal with it. Grilling is the best. However, it's the only food in the world that I will say you can put in the microwave, and it's spectacular.
Really?
What you do is you microwave a small hot dog for a minute. I don't like small hot dogs. And knockwurst for like 90 seconds. And right before, as soon as it explodes a little bit through the casing, you turn it off, let it cool down a little, and it's a fabulous experience. Not as good as grilling, but quite good. You writing that down, please?
I wasn't writing that down.
Oh,
Somebody
you weren't?
just
I'm so
asked
sorry.
because I'm from Fall River. What's my favorite hot dog place in Fall River? And there's Nathan's on North Main Street. I forget. There's another. It's Nathan's something dogs. I should look it up, but it's on
Do you
North
want to
Main
read
Street
these
in
two
Fall
texts?
River.
These two texts, please.
Jim.
Two anonymous texts.
Jim, I just typed in Savage Wiener, and you came up.
Savage Wiener is what they actually said. Okay, how about the next one?
Savage Wiener. Oh,
Yeah.
I screwed it up.
Sort of a joke.
But either one would work, I think. Savage
Good.
Wiener or Savage Wiener. I think
Fine,
it's
thank you.
Okay, and then Jim, how did Harriet Heinemann like her toppings in the bun? Or under the bun. Harriet Heinemann was the love of Jim's
No,
life.
she was not the love of my life.
Yes, well, I admit it. Because her name was Harriet Heinemann.
Okay, let me just say this.
You know, when you write your love poem to Harriet,
God.
you know, it's not quite the same as writing it to Lisa or
Right.
Michelle.
Well, you know what?
Dear
She
Harriet.
was the love of my life, and I never wrote her a poem. But you know what I did do, since you asked? When I was at the University of Pennsylvania, which is where I went to undergraduate school, you may be aware.
You and Donald Trump.
My two roommates and I would drive in the middle of the night to a 24-hour restaurant in New York City, get 2 hot dogs and an order of fries, and drive back and eat them in the car. Do you know what that restaurant was? Nathan's. 43rd and Broadway. It's no longer there. Open 24 hours a day when I was a kid. And it was one of the true fun things of my young life, such as it was.
Okay, I'm looking. It's Nick. I got it wrong. No, I got the wrong place. I'm looking for the one in Fall River I used to go to all the time. I think it's Nathan's Hot Dog. Maybe it's Nick's Hot Dogs.
Could you do me a
North
favor?
Main Street, Fall River.
What's the name of the place, by the way, where they're cheap and they put chili on them in Worcester? What's that place called?
I don't know.
Coney Island. Thank you, Jamie. Look, I can't get Savage Wiener online. Can you see if you can find it? And maybe the guy was BSing us and we've totally humiliated ourselves. Michelle, you're in Charlestown, Mass. Mass? I know it's Mass.
absolutely am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely am, but I'm from Texas.
Oh, perfect.
And so first of all,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I grill and I smoke food, and the best way I've had hot dogs is when you let them pop a little bit, but then you have to actually get some of that crispy, dark crust on there. Then you put your toppings on it.
Oh, I am.
That's how you do it. Smoke it on the grill.
Smoke it on the grill until it starts to get the little
explosion thing.
Explosions.
Like
the skin
and
pops.
The black crispy.
Black crispy. Okay, and then you take it off and put the toppings on.
Michelle, is that like a Texas thing, or what's the deal?
I don't know. You can tell I'm African American, right? So it might be that too. But we like it crispy.
No, crispy is the key. 100% with you. And I'm neither African American nor am I from Texas. But Michelle, I'm 100% with you. Thank you kindly for your recommendation. By the way, for those searching, we're really helping this guy's business. The Savage Wiener, not Savage Wiener, An anonymous texter asks, Marjorie, you would know, does Magoni's serve hot dogs? Do they serve hot dogs?
Magoni's is being
revamped.
Rehabilitated, not rehabilitated. It's being redone, and they're going to have a nice roof deck. So as soon as the roof deck opens, I should check and see if the roof deck opens. We should get down and check it out.
Is this a real slogan, or Jamie, did you make this up? It's probably Jamie. This is the slogan, allegedly, of the Savage Wiener, which that caller told us about. At the Savage Wiener, we're committed to providing you the finest wiener experience of your life.
Wait a minute.
Marjorie wasn't listening.
I wasn't listening because I just looked up I was looking for the place in Fall River where I got the hot dogs. I did not know this.
No.
The Fall River Coney Island Classic is happening tomorrow, July 17th, in downtown Fall River.
Yeah.
And you bring your appetite and take on the challenge to eat a lot of hot dogs, or you'd be a spectator and you can go. Wow, I didn't know that.
Do you think they know that today is National Hot Dog Day and not tomorrow?
I don't know. Maybe they missed the date, but I think that's pretty cool. They're having a big hot dog thing right in Fall River. You can compete. Individual participants and teams of 5 are welcome to compete eating the hot dogs, since there will be 2 contests: a solo showdown for competitive eaters and a team challenge where members race to finish 50 hot dogs together. How about that?
Jay and
team
Brighton,
challenge. We should go.
Yeah, Zoe said it. Zoe, the non-meat eater. You'll be a real help. So Jay in Brighton says, Boston Public Radio, when does Harriet Heinemann send a cease and desist order for the show?
We've been trying to find her online.
Well, she obviously changed her name, or she's dead. One of the two. I don't know.
Jim.
I don't mean that harshly. I mean, she's either changed her name or she's dead.
Okay.
What's so hard? I mean, she is what she is, right?
Okay.
If anyone knows Harriet Heinemann from Philadelphia, a couple of years ago, could you please contact Jamie and let him know?
There's a lot of
show's over.
There are marks I can't read from the texters
when
about
you
you and hot
about
dogs,
Savage
Jim.
Wiener, you really sort of have lost control of the show.
You're the one.
That was a caller. Thank you.
I think you brought it up, Jim.
Maybe I did.
Okay.
By the way, this morning at our meeting, who suggested this as a topic? Not me. Who did suggest this as a topic? You.
What are you talking about? I was talking about front-loading washing machines, and you were the one that decided to do the hot dogs,
Maybe
Jim.
that's true.
Because,
Happy National Hot Dog Day.
Happy National Hot Dog Day.
All of our wonderful listeners.
That's right. We had a
really
wonderful one
appreciate
from the Lennox Hotel. Thanks to Peter over at the Lennox Hotel
Peter's the best.
for bringing us the delicious hot dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you to the people that came down to the Boston Public Library. Really appreciate it. Keep up with us 24/7 way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page. Tune in tomorrow.
I found the
TikTok
Savage
page
Wiener.
at Boston Public Radio. Oh, good. Tomorrow we're going to have a hunger panel, representatives from the Greater Boston Food Bank and the Western Mass Food Bank, plus Andrew Cabral, Shirley Young. They rejoin us in the guest seats. They were co-hosting for us. We were off, Jim. Public defenders Mara Dolan and Jen O'Brien talk about the continued work stoppage upending the court system
incredible.
here in Massachusetts. I mean, people that did very bad things are being released because they can't get lawyers because of this work stoppage.
You can buy 48 half-pound colossal Savage Wieners for a mere $276. You can.
It makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Me too, believe me. Totally.
Okay, we're also going to be joined tomorrow by Mary Pang, who went out with John Lennon for about a year. They were girlfriend and boyfriend.
She's got a film, she's got photographs. I can't wait to talk to her.
Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Nia Harmon, John McClaw Parker, Jamie Bologna, Maddie Garr, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, especially Peter, who brought us a hot dog, and the people, he's from the Lennox Hotel, he's not from the Newsfeed Cafe. Whoops, I goofed that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, stay tuned to the Culture Show right after us on 89.7 GBH. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in today. Enjoy National Hot Dog Day, and hope you can tune in tomorrow.
Bye.